6 at 8:37 a.m. here in downtown Winnipeg in Studio 15. Thanks for joining us. It is pretty humid out there, but we do have a 30% chance we'll see showers late this afternoon. We're going to start in Winnipeg with a mix of sun and cloud. Our high 21, humidex 25, although it feels a bit stickier than that to me. Brandon, a mix of sun and cloud. Also for you, chance of showers, high 21. Thompson, mainly sunny, high 20. So overall, the temperatures will cool today. Let's get into saying hello. Mr. Corey Funk is here. Good morning. Corey. Corey is directing the show and covering your commute. Good morning to Mr. Abby Adiyemi, who is sitting over there across the glass in our control room. Abby is our senior tech in the program and also will be covering the forecast through the day. And then there's Darren Marash, who's a producer of our YouTube stream. Good morning, Darren. And you can watch the show there. One of the things you'll be watching later is the Premier of Manitoba. He will be live in studio with us, Premier Canoe, so stay tuned for that. That's after 8 o'clock. We'll talk about balancing compassion and enforcement regarding public drug use in Winnipeg, especially near schools. How do we do that? We'll ask the Premier to weigh in. Also, we'll talk more about the wildfire situation this week as the season has now begun and provincial preparedness. So stay tuned for that. Let's go to Heather Wells with other headlines this morning at 2 minutes to 6 o'clock. Hi there.
Hi. Well, a Canadian Armed Forces sergeant facing charges for assaulting military police testified at her court-martial in Winnipeg this week. During a pretrial hearing, Sergeant Athena Morris told court she tied herself to a chair in an area of 17 Wing where she did not have clearance. Morris testified 3 police officers asked her to leave that area, but she refused. We'll hear what happened next. And the Manitoba government is trying to address questions about measles and the vaccine in the Southern Health region. The Associate Chief Medical Officer of Health held a telephone town hall last night. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks, Heath.
Thank you.
Also on the program today, we begin talking about the Ellis Street Festival. Coming up this weekend, 9 local musicians are performing this year. Local artists selling their work on the street. We're going to hear more about what's going on in case you want to head out there. Plus, after 7 o'clock, we're going to talk to the host of a brand new show called Made in Winnipeg. It's a TV series celebrating local entrepreneurs who make things with their hands. Stay tuned. Right now, though, let's touch base with World Report.
On cue. Andrea Martin is one of the most beloved performers in comedy history. She was on SCTV.
Oh, hello?
Starred in movies. Won 2 Tonys on Broadway. She'll be here to tell you about her incredible life and the last time she saw her good friend, the late Catherine O'Hara.
It doesn't feel like she's gone.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. The federal government is set to unveil its new national strategy for artificial intelligence. At an event in Toronto later this morning, Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce new safety, security, and privacy rules for machine learning. For a closer look at the plan, we're joined by the CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Janice, this policy has faced delays and a lot of shifting public opinion. What's the motivation for this announcement now?
Well, I'll be listening today to how the government ties this into its bigger sovereignty agenda. As artificial intelligence emerges in more and more ways, there is a serious threat if Canada is relying on cloud storage and server facilities outside its jurisdiction. When the government considers infrastructure for its building agenda, it has to consider things like where these data centers are going to go, who's going to build them, which is why we've seen AI facilities tied to other industrial development strategies, like the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta, for example, to build a bitumen pipeline, or the government's major ramp-up of defense investments. And this strategy also has to consider sovereign human resources, measures to try to keep the best and the brightest in this field here in Canada, building up research institutions, scaling up startups, training Canadian workers and users to be savvy, to be competitive, to lead in this sector, and to approach AI with the appropriate sensitivity to unique Canadian needs, as opposed to just accepting tech that was developed with other countries' priorities in mind.
So, Janice, let's talk about the economics of all this. We know the tech sector has money, so what is the taxpayer involvement in all of this?
Yeah, and with all the needs out there, it might be difficult for some to accept that tech companies need public money right now. But there are concerns that small and medium-sized businesses can't or won't adopt these technologies without support, could fall behind. The Carney government's new sovereign wealth fund may be used to invest in top AI firms, although the details on that remain a bit murky. And instead of simply giving priority companies handouts, the strategy also envisions taking an equity stake in AI. So as the government helps them to scale up, their long-term success could reap benefits for the public purse in return. The strategy also talks about government being not just a funder, but a customer for these companies, using the Office of Digital Transformation to find more and more ways to use AI in government and figure out what public administration challenges could be solved through digital innovation.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, Ottawa says its new carbon pricing deal with Alberta will bring stability to the carbon market and hold heavy emitters accountable. But a new study out this morning raises serious doubts. It warns the agreement won't actually cut emissions from the oil and gas sector and could put Canada further behind on its climate targets. David Thurton reports.
Carbon pricing is really important, industrial carbon pricing.
Dave Sawyer with the Canadian Climate Institute has been looking at the numbers, modeling the impact of Ottawa's new carbon pricing deal with Alberta. 3 weeks ago, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his deal with Premier Daniel Smith would fix her province's broken system for pricing carbon emissions.
This is Alberta and Canada coming together. It's about having a carbon market that functions.
But a new analysis from the Canadian Climate Institute is skeptical. It found that even with the new changes, Canada won't be any further along on previous commitments to reduce its carbon footprint.
The emission reductions we're getting out of the deal are not really significant.
And that's the optimistic scenario. If both Carney and Alberta follow through on an oil pipeline to the west coast, any potential emission reduction would be lost, leaving Canada further from achieving its climate targets. David Thornton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Israel and Lebanon say they have agreed to a renewed ceasefire.
As a result of U.S.-led negotiations, Israel and Lebanon agreed to the implementation of a ceasefire. The ceasefire is contingent on a complete cessation of Hezbollah fire and the evacuation of all Hezbollah operatives from the South Litani sector.
U.S. State Department Chief of Staff Daniel Haller delivering an update on the conflict following talks in Washington. The deal would stop all Hezbollah attacks on Israel and force the Iran-backed group to withdraw operatives from certain security zones. Hezbollah did not take part in the talks, however, and the agreement is contingent on a number of conditions, including the complete cessation of Hezbollah strikes. Donald Trump may be facing a setback over his conflict with Iran. The U.S. House of Representatives is forcing the president to seek congressional approval for the war or withdraw American forces. The House passed the War Powers Act with Republican support. The CBC's Chris Reyes joins us from Washington with more. So, Chris, break down the vote for us.
Yeah, good morning, John. So it took every Democrat and 4 Republicans in the House to get this legislation over the finish line after multiple failed attempts, which tells you that momentum has been building against the president's war in Iran. This legislation doesn't automatically trigger an end to the war. It's considered mostly a symbolic vote at this point. But it does send a message to the president that members of his own party are willing to stand up to him as this conflict continues with no end in sight. Representative Thomas Massey has been one of Trump's more vocal challengers within the Republican Party. Here's what he said about the vote.
I'm excited that it did pass. The people are tired of this. They're tired of $5 a gallon gas and $6 a gallon diesel and fertilizer we can't afford to put on our fields in Kentucky. So I think it sends a good message that the People's House, which represents the people, is tired of this war.
Massey is standing his ground, but it is worth noting that he recently lost the primaries to a Trump-backed candidate, which means he will not be running for re-election in November.
So, Chris, what's next?
So the Senate will now vote on this measure where the Republicans also have a slim majority. Some Democrats say the message alone that the president's war in Iran is illegal is powerful enough should this legislation pass in both chambers. Still, Trump will likely challenge it.
Chris Reyes in Washington. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Canada and its Five Eyes partners are warning that Chinese spies are posing as recruiters on sites like LinkedIn and Indeed. A new security alert says operatives are using fake job postings to target current and former government and military personnel. Applicants are often asked to write trial reports for money, a tactic meant to trick them into revealing state secrets. The Chinese embassy in London strongly denies the claims, calling them malicious slander. A BC man convicted in the deaths of his 3 children is now on a conditional release. A provincial review board says Alan Schonborn must attend a psychiatric clinic for treatment. He must also report any intimate relationships and not possess any weapons or drugs. Schonborn killed his children in their Merritt, BC home in 2008. They were 5, 8, and 10 years old. He was found not criminally responsible for their deaths 2 years later. Schonborn legally changed his name to Ken John Johnson in 2021. Finally, wild oyster fishers on Prince Edward Island are struggling to keep their heads above water. Their industry is grappling with 2 diseases and are killing mollusks at a record rate, and some say they may quit their livelihood altogether because of the problems. Nancy Russell has their story.
Wild oyster fishers say it has been tough going so far this spring. 2 oyster diseases are taking a toll on the rivers where they fish. MSX and dermo are not harmful for humans, but are killing oysters in big numbers.
It's just heartbreaking because you're fishing them and then in the back of your head it's like, is there anything going to be alive next year? You're always thinking of the future to come because this spring everybody said, oh, there's going to be a few dead, but until you really get in the water and you start fishing, you don't realize how bad it is.
Tammy Coughlin and her husband Randy have been fishing oysters together for more than 30 years.
So we usually get 10 boxes a day, and now we're down to 4 boxes a day. By the time you get everything paid, it's just hard to make a living at it anymore.
Amanda Wagner and her husband also fish oysters together. They have left their home 2 hours away and moved to the eastern part of the island, searching for enough healthy oysters to pay the bills.
Very discouraging, frustrating, stressful, emotional. It's hard.
The federal government has offered to buy back licenses from wild oyster fishers. Tammy Coughlin says she's not interested.
I don't have grade 12. And I'm at the age, what am I going to go back to school to do?
The wild oyster fishers are back on the water in September for the fall season, racing against time to make enough money to get them through the winter. Nancy Russell, CBC News, Brudenell, Prince Edward Islands.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you're enjoying the World Report podcast, and we hope you are, follow us and tell folks you know. And then we can all be in on the great big club. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. Thanks for joining us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app or on YouTube, wherever you're joining us. It's going to be a little bit cooler today in Winnipeg, at least compared to what it has been. Well, this hour on the show, the Alice Street Festival is coming up this weekend. There's 9 local musicians performing. Local artists will also sell their work, and we're going to talk all about what's going on this year if you want to head out there. Also, after months of delays, officials are expected to release the federal government's new AI strategy today. You might have just heard a tee-up of this on World Report. Francis Sims will tell us how Canada is looking at this, how we're planning to catch up on the global AI race as well, and where we're specifically behind. Plus, we have a column this hour from CBC's Manjula Selvaraj having a closer look at what data centers are and why some Canadians want to fight them. You might know that just north of Ile-des-Chênes here in Manitoba, Las Vegas-based Jet AI and Vancouver-based Consensus Core have announced plans to build there a data center. So we're going to hear this national take from Manjula Selvaraj coming up. Right now, though, let's go to Heather Welsh, who's in our news center and has more headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party has barred one of its leadership candidates from running for the party in Turtle Mountain. The PCs say they have told Wally Dowdrich he cannot seek the party nomination in that southwest Manitoba constituency. Dowdrich said last year he intends to run in Turtle Mountain, where the current MLA isn't running again. He finished second to Abi Khan in a close leadership race last year. The number of people dying in highway crashes in Manitoba is on the rise. RCMP say 27 people have been killed since January. That's 3 more than at this time last year. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, I'll tell you what, I'm one of those allergy sufferer people, and yesterday was brutal with the wind and everything. Today's going to be calmer all around, I think.
Across board, Marcy, I see the province actually returning to more stable conditions this morning after the southern region saw that overnight rain showers that came through, now leaving clear skies behind. I'm talking about from the south all the way up north. We are seeing clear conditions. Here in the city and nearby areas, we're going to see the day start with a mix of sun and clouds. There is a slim chance of showers sometime this afternoon. Current temperatures sitting around 15 degrees, sunny outside. Some breezy conditions expected through the day. We're expecting a high of 21 today with that humidex around 25, and partly cloudy skies will roll in overnight. And similar conditions we're seeing in the southern regions, close to 15 degrees already from the Pembina Valley region all the way to the Parkland and mild start, while the Interlake is already getting lots of sunshine. Daytime high is comfortable around 18 to 22 for most of the regions. And up north, we are seeing more like widespread temperatures this morning. We're looking at temperatures between 11 degrees and 3 degrees for the north you travel, though we'll see highs between 17 and 20 also for the region up north. So we're shaking off the storms from yesterday and the day before, and we're going to get more of a dry stretch of weather province-wide. Winnipeg, right now, we are just at 15, warming to 21.
And just looking at current conditions, because there are pockets of things still left here. So Norway House has heavy rain actually right now. This just changed in the sky conditions. So we'll watch if things shift here. And in Island Lake, there's light rain falling. But Abby's right, across most of the south here, we are looking at pretty straight ahead day, and rain is less likely for us. Okay, let's get into what's going on in the morning commute. Corey Funk's popped in. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Yes, quiet commute so far. Nothing on the highways, the roads that I've seen. But if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see some, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, what's that?
No, nothing. Go do the number, and then I'll tell you why I'm laughing.
204-788-3093.
So I'm going to get caught once on the mornings. Might as well just get it over with, because I always say hello, Corey, on the air. But in real life, Corey and I are in the office, and I almost didn't hear hello.
Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Yeah, that's usually how we talk to each other.
Okay, we got it over with. We promise we won't do it every time he's on the air. So commuter line again is 788-3093. Well, as I mentioned, the Ellis Street Festival is coming up this weekend. There's 9 different local musicians performing. Out of Cyan is one of them. We'll try to get more music on for you momentarily, but let's learn more about the festival itself. So Out of Cyan is one of the performers, Ellis Street Festival on the weekend. It's not just live music, though. There's other things going on, food. There's art for purchase as well. West End Cultural Centre is hosting the event, and so Rain Hamilton is here, marketing lead at the West End Cultural Centre. Thanks for being here early.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so this is, for listeners who've never been to this, tell us about the Ellis Street Festival. What does a weekend look like?
The Ellis Street Festival is a festival on our block of Ellis, right in front of the West End Cultural Centre. There's live music, as you mentioned. There's 25-cent hot dogs. A bouncy castle has been confirmed. A kids area, community booths, a market area, and the art space, or pardon me, the Art Beat, Art from the Heart market is also happening inside the West End Cultural Centre. So there's just a ton going on, and it is a fun way to gather and connect all with our neighbors.
It looks like the weather's going to cooperate for you, which is awesome.
I'm delighted.
Yeah, right. I know. Connecting with art is important for the community and for the West End to be part of the community. Tell me a little bit more about why.
The West End Cultural Centre has always been a nonprofit and a registered charity, and it's organized that way because the WEC recognizes the importance of art, and being set up as a nonprofit, as a registered charity, allows us to prioritize that important mandate of fostering art, supporting art, and supporting the community that needs art. We all need art. It is a basic human function. It is a basic human method of existing and making sense of the world and of understanding ourselves. And so we all need access to that. So the WEC really makes a point of connecting with community, and especially of offering free events, low barrier events, and the Ellis Street Festival is one of those. It's free.
How has art empowered you?
Oh, art has empowered me in all the ways. Like, I cannot imagine a life for myself without that. I have always been an artist. I've always been a maker and a creator. And if I had not had access to those experiences that moved me, that resonated with me, I think that my life would just make much less sense, and I for sure would not be a happy person.
What do you hear from people that come to the festival and appreciate it?
A lot of feedback like, oh, great, this is today, fabulous. We look forward to this all year. I just had a conversation too with like a business neighboring business of ours, like, oh, great, that's happening. I'll bring my flowers out. I'll bring my goods out. Well, can we have a table for this? So people look forward to it as a means of connecting.
So let's talk about the 9 local artists performing. We don't have to run through all of them, but we can because we have a little time here if you'd like to. But tell me a little bit about the highlights from your perspective on the musical bill.
So much good stuff going on, and collaboration too between other venues. So the West End Cultural Center will have some live music on Friday night at the Art for the Heart Market. King Cobb, our neighboring pub there, will have some after hours music, some late night stuff. And then on the street, daytime of Saturday, there's a lot going on. And then an after hours at King Cobb also. And I am particularly proud of this band of young people. The band is called Pace Arrow.
Okay.
And I know a lot about them because they practice down the hall from my office every Tuesday.
Okay.
So my colleague Keely, who is the community coordinator, organized this whole festival. She's been working on it all year, and she runs the Tune-In program, which is a free music lesson drop-in program for youth. And so these kids come, and they are young. Maybe they're like 10 to 13 years old, and they have met at this event, like at those weekly lessons, and have formed a band. And so we were able as an organization then to support their expression and learning through music and their building of community of their band. And now the WEC is able to support them with like their first paying gig, their first festival gig, and they will be taking the stage on the main stage of the Ellis Street Festival on Saturday.
How do they feel about it?
I think they are delighted. Yeah.
They must be so excited. I mean, that first gig is a real, and like you said, a first paid gig.
Right?
It's a big deal.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of full circle, as you said, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you guys, for what you want to do and how you want to connect. What about the Makers Market? What are the highlights there for you?
Oh, this is lovely. This is something that Keely, our community coordinator, has innovated for this year. So there's different kinds of makers of different kinds of goods. Two I'm particularly looking forward to is Maple Rodent, who makes like stickers and keychains and all kinds of stuff that's original art and kind of like an anime and cartoon style.
Fun.
It's a really interesting style, yeah. And then Posy Creations is a Cree artist making all kinds of jewelry. So I will be scoping those out like as a priority.
Yeah, Posy Creations, I think I've scoped out before, I think. What should people know if they want to go? Obviously, it's free, but it's Friday and Saturday, and obviously all ages welcome. And tell us.
Absolutely. Yep. All ages are welcome. There's something for everybody. Bring a few quarters if you're interested in a hot dog and a juice for a quarter each.
Where do you hear that? A quarter. Yeah.
I know. It's really fun, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, people are just welcome to show up, and it's literally on the street, so you cannot miss it.
Do you have any idea how many people you're expecting, right?
Oh, I'll be happy to give you an update on that. But hundreds and hundreds of people typically come out. Yeah.
Prepping with a lot of hot dogs. Thank you very much for coming in, giving us a bit of a preview. And people can check out, obviously, online if they want more information.
Fabulous.
Nice to see you.
My pleasure.
Rain Hamilton live in studio with us, marketing lead over at the West End Cultural Center. So Ellis Street Festival starts tomorrow night, runs Saturday, and we want to point you to wec.ca, wecc.ca/Ellis Street Festival, all one word, if you want to check out more details online. Meantime, we're going to leave you with a bit of music from one of the other bands that is playing the festival. This is Snacky and Could It Be?
Call on me ever anymore. Do you think of me? Still I can't be sure. I've been wasting time on my phone, wondering where you've been. Creeping, used to Silence is deadly, silence is deadly, deadly, deadly. But we were never ready for all of this. You know what I mean, how we were acting quick. But your heart is full of gold, and I wish I could know you more, more, more. Could it be you could be it, everything, everything to me? Yeah, could it be you could be it, everything to me?
Could it be? Just giving you a taste of what you can check out at the Ellis Street Festival happening this weekend, Friday, Saturday. That's Snacky, one of the 9 musical acts performing. It's 6:23 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. Next on the show, remember Erin Brockovich?
These people don't dream about being rich. They dream about being able to watch their kids swim in a pool without worrying that they'll have to have a hysterectomy at the age of 20 or have their spine deteriorate like Stan Bloom, another client of ours.
That is Julia Roberts. You might recognize her voice playing tough-talking lawyer Erin Brockovich in the film of the same name. But it is based, of course, on a true story. And the truth is, Brockovich continues to make waves. Now she's set her sights on something new popping up across the United States. AI data centers. And just like our neighbors south of the border, there's concerns about these massive projects here in Canada. And here in Manitoba, just north of Ildeshane, Las Vegas-based Jet AI and Vancouver-based Consensus Core announced plans to build an AI data center in the rural municipality of Richot. And some residents have voiced their opposition. Some of you have even written to me directly on CBC asking us to understand more about this. This morning, the CBC's Manjula Selvarajah has a closer look at what these data centers are and why some Canadians want to fight them.
Erin Brockovich just launched a platform for people in the U.S. to share concerns about existing or proposed AI data centers near them. The site, BrockovichDataCenter.com, has accumulated more than 3,000 reports about these centers. In Canada, there are growing protests against these projects, like this one in Vancouver in May. Or in April, outside a council meeting near Regina in the rural municipality of Sherwood.
Say no to AI!
While councillors meeting inside approved a Bell Canada AI data centre. In a press release, Bell Canada projects that the facility will generate $12 billion in economic value, 800 jobs during construction, and 80-plus jobs after.
There are a couple projects jockeying for the title of the largest AI data center in Canada. This is one of them.
Marion Lowen is Associate Program Director with Urban Climate Leadership, a nonprofit focused on climate action. She's also a former Saskatoon City Councillor.
It's over 60 hectares, and it would be, a very large industrial land use. It's a 300 megawatt project. 300 megawatts is enough electricity to power up to 300,000 homes. So that's almost 3 times as many dwellings as in the city of Regina right next door.
AI data centers are very different from the data centers of old. They need to handle high volumes of data and high-performance computing. They're larger, consume more power, and generate more heat.
There's been a kind of step change in intensity with the arrival of AI, and so people aren't just building regular data centers anymore, they're building ones that are truly hyper scale.
Anne Pasek is an associate professor at Trent University and the Canada Research Chair in Media Culture and the Environment. She studies the political economy of the tech sector. Why have these infrastructure projects become a lightning rod for protests? A new Angus Reid poll shows that nearly half of Canadians surveyed believe Canada needs domestic infrastructure, but 2/3 don't want a data center nearby. Pasek says people worry they may shoulder the burdens of these projects while profits flow elsewhere.
So that could mean having their energy bill go up, because whenever you build a new piece of infrastructure that requires a lot of electricity, you have to build all kinds of upgrades to the electrical grid. Your local watershed could be impacted. Some of these very large hyperscale facilities will pull in millions of gallons of water a day to keep the chips cool.
Blaine Haggard says these data centers give people something physical to direct their anger at, an argument he says was put forward by U.S. political scientist David Karp. Haggard is a professor of political science at Brock University, studying internet and data governance.
So they're kind of the embodiment of this kind of like malaise and antipathy and anger against AI. So like for young people, it's destroying entry-level jobs. Mid-career workers, they see AI being used as an excuse to hollow out their workforces, leaving them kind of alone and overworked.
Meanwhile, the Canadian government is doubling down on AI. It earmarked $2 billion to boost Canada's computing prowess under the Canadian Sovereign AI Compute Strategy, a push for digital and data sovereignty. Evan Solomon, Canada's Minister of AI, called it the most pressing policy and democratic issue of our time.
The issue here isn't just sovereignty in the abstract, the shorter term issue, which is, oh my gosh, we can't trust the United States anymore. There is, however, a longer term issue that's been at play, which is also related to the United States, which is the dominance of the giant tech companies.
But Haggard warns that the physical location alone is not a barrier to other countries accessing Canadian data.
Something called the U.S. Cloud Act in the United States. It allows the U.S. government to access data held by U.S. companies or U.S. affiliated companies, no matter where it's located in the world.
Marion Lowen says there's also a need for more conversations about the end of life of these projects.
Local governments and communities need to ask at the decision points, who's responsible for decommissioning this site and reclaiming this site and doing any necessary environmental remediation?
In 2023, Anne Pasek authored an e-zine titled Getting into Fights with Data Centers.
The conversation we have about the environmental impact of digital stuff tends to focus on us as consumers, how guilty should I feel about having a conversation with ChatGPT. I find it very helpful to just go find the infrastructure where this stuff is sitting, which is to say data centers.
She predicts resistance to these AI-focused infrastructure projects will only continue to grow, which means we just may hear more of this. For CBC Radio, I'm Manjula Salvaraja.
Well, later this morning, we will ask the Premier, Wab Kinew in Manitoba here, about that data center that we understand is going to be built near Ile de Chêne. So we'll ask more about that project. Wab Kinew live here after 8 o'clock. Also, today's the day where the long-awaited AI strategy will be announced in Canada. Crystalie Ramlakan has her business take on that following our news. If you need us on the morning commute, which is good so far so good so early, I like to say, and it's much calmer weather-wise than yesterday to start the day. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. The only place where the weather right now is a little bit challenging is in Norway House, where there's heavy rain falling. Your news from Manitoba from CBC is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is partly cloudy out there. Beautiful moon earlier. We are looking at a mix of sun and clouds for the day, and that north wind is going to keep our high a little bit cooler than we were yesterday. 21 in Winnipeg this afternoon. Opioid overdoses in Winnipeg are skyrocketing, and Winnipeg first responders say they are overwhelmed. CBC I-Team reporter Michelle Allen has that story.
Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service data shows a historic surge in opioid overdoses. It's already responded to over 2,000 opioid-related calls this year so far. Jason Podolanek is an outreach worker at St. Boniface Streetlinks. He says more people in Winnipeg are using opioids.
It's horrible. There's people that die every day. It's evil.
Podolanek and his girlfriend Alicia Wallen used to be homeless, struggling with meth and fentanyl addiction. Wallen died in the hospital 5 months ago. The autopsy found fentanyl in her system. Podolanek's in recovery now after getting housing, detox, and medication.
I was determined not to let her death be in vain, I guess, because I'm not going to keep going on the same cycle as we were.
He says harm reduction alone won't stop the cycle. There needs to be more resources helping people get off drugs, too. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party has barred one of its leadership candidates from running for the party in Turtle Mountain. The PC say they have told Wally Dowdrich he cannot seek the party nomination in the Southwest Manitoba constituency. Dowdrich had said last year he intends to run in Turtle Mountain. The current PC MLA Doyle Panuke is not running again. The party didn't say why Dowdrich isn't permitted to seek the nomination. Dowdrich finished second to Abi Khan in a close leadership race last year. A Canadian Armed Forces sergeant is facing a court-martial this week after an altercation with military police. Details from CBC's Santiago Arias Orozco.
Sergeant Athena Morris says it was a hostile and violent interaction. She was removed from 17 Wing in March by the military police. That incident now the focus of a court-martial case. During a pre-trial court hearing, Morris said she jumped over a counter and tied herself to a chair in an area of the base she didn't have clearance to enter. Morris testified this week that she did it to bring attention after she wasn't allowed to change her gender marker on a database. Court heard 3 military police ask Morris to leave the area, but she resisted. Morris says she was shot with a conducted energy weapon, pushed against the ground, and searched. She had to be sedated and taken to hospital. The sergeant was charged with assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. Those charges are being tried during the first court-martial at Winnipeg's Chippewa Navy Reserve in at least 23 years. Santiago Arias Orozco, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Outreach workers at the Salvation Army have helped get about 200 people off the streets of Winnipeg since October and into transitional housing. 88 have found permanent housing. Outreach worker Stephen Halderson.
A large portion of the people that we're focusing on are like the long-term chronically homeless individuals. You know, some of the people we've been dealing with have been homeless since like 2016.
The Salvation Army is one of the groups partnering with the province on the Your Way Home strategy. Once people get into a permanent place to live, they continue to get personalized supports. The number of people dying in highway crashes in Manitoba is on the rise. RCMP say 27 people have been killed since January. That's 3 more than at this time last year. 3 Manitobans have been killed in 3 separate crashes this week alone. And 3 recent fatalities involved semi-trucks. Mary Manuluk has been driving a truck for decades, and he says the statistics are concerning.
It took me years to get to the level where I am. The population in Canada has risen drastically in the last 40 years. And there's more trucks out there. So something needs to be done so that everybody's in the same playing field and same level of driving.
RCMP warned drivers to put their phones down and slow down. Manitoba health officials are trying to address vaccine hesitancy as the province deals with a growing measles outbreak. Manitoba's Associate Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jazz Atwal, held a telephone town hall last night. People from Southern Health Region were invited to ask questions. That's where the case numbers have been highest and vaccine rates lowest. Atwal says people who are unvaccinated face higher risks of severe outcomes.
Someone might not see it in the community because when someone's in hospital or from a different community, you don't hear about it. You don't see it. But the doctors, the nurses, and the family that's impacted sees it. And we see it when we talk to those families. And we see the remorse in some parents in some of these situations as well.
Manitoba has seen nearly 600 confirmed cases of measles with 49 hospitalizations. Around half of the hospitalizations were children under the age of 10. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells in our news center live. It's time for your regional forecast, Manitoba. Let's find out what CBC's Abby Adiemi has to say.
Yeah, we will be enjoying more like a pleasant mix of sun and clouds today, with temperatures climbing steadily into the low 20s across most of the region. For the southern area, we might be seeing a slim chance of showers maybe late in the afternoon, but I don't see any warnings today. Here in the Red River Valley region, forecast for Winnipeg and nearby areas, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds, partly cloudy out, just some clouds outside. Breezy conditions coming from the north. Current temperatures sitting around 15 degrees. We will see our high around 21 today, and those winds from the north will definitely keep things not as muggy as we expecting it to be. While in other regions from Morden towards the Headingley area, we're looking at temperatures around 14 degrees, also seeing a mix of sun and clouds at this time. You're warming up to 22 later. Around Brandon, we're seeing partly cloudy skies, 12 degrees right now. Highs will be around 21. Then from Dauphin all the way towards Roblin, it's 11 degrees at this time. Cloudy conditions. Highs will be near 18 degrees. Then we track it into the Interlake region. Temperatures currently around 15 degrees. We're seeing a mix of sun and clouds there. Highs around 21. We go into the central part of the province, the part of Flimflon, Norway House. We're seeing 7 and 10 degrees in that part of the province. Norway House seeing light rain at this time. It's then going to transition to heavy rain at some point. Current temperatures there 8 degrees. You get to 17 later in the day. Thompson is at 4 and partly cloudy at this time. Highs around 20. Lynn Lake is at 5 and sunny. Gillam 4 degrees and sunny. Most of both regions warming up around 20 and 19 degrees. Tudulu Lake is at 5 and sunny. Highs also around 20 degrees. And then Churchill, we're seeing sunny skies there at 9 degrees. You get to 17. So it's more like the temperatures are kind of even across board. We're seeing 20s already even in the northern area. Winnipeg, we get to 21 today. Current temperature is 15.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
There's Corey Funk here to tell us about the commute.
Hello. Yeah, it's been quiet so far. Haven't heard of any major issues out there. But if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see something, you can always give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, let's get to business news. Crystal Ramlakan here live on Zoom. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So we know Prime Minister Carney set to announce Canada's long-awaited AI strategy today. What are the details we have confirmed so far?
Well, the plan is supposed to introduce new measures to ensure artificial intelligence is developed safely and securely, and it will aim to improve the daily lives of Canadians. So the Prime Minister is slated to tour an artificial intelligence institute in Toronto and meet with researchers as he unfurls this blueprint this morning. And the strategy comes as governments, businesses, and society, and, everyday people, you and I, navigate the rapid development of machine learning. And AI Minister Evan Solomon has said the strategy looks to build trust in AI with things like new privacy and online safety laws.
So Francis Sims is going to be joining us to talk more about this still ahead this half hour, and to walk us through some of what he thinks this is hopefully going to be addressing. So I'll have more on it. Next in business news, though, the federal government has told the CRTC to change course on increasing streamers' financial contributions. For those that missed this, what's it about?
So the government is directing the regulator to back down on its recent decision to triple streamers' financial contributions to Canadian content. Instead, the government says it will provide $600 million to the sector. Now, this decision comes after the Motion Picture Association, the U.S. group representing streamers, called on Cabinet to reconsider the current approach, and after the U.S. ambassador to Canada called for the policy to be rescinded. So last month, the CRTC said it would require large streaming services like Netflix to contribute 15% of their Canadian revenues to Canadian content. And it made this decision as part of its work to implement the Online Streaming Act. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked whether the decision is another concession to the U.S. as Canada seeks to renew its trade pact with the U.S. and Mexico. But he said, the government was looking at how much the new policy would cost Canadians. So the government says the CRTC's new requirements would impose new costs on these companies providing these services, which would ultimately fall on Canadian consumers through higher prices.
You have more details this morning on SpaceX's plans to go public. That's the next story on your list for today. What do you know?
So SpaceX plans to raise up to $75 billion when it goes public this month, setting the stage for the largest ever stock market debut. So it also puts owner and founder Elon Musk on course to becoming the world's first trillionaire. So the company plans to sell more than 555 million shares at $135 each. And the offering would give SpaceX a market value of $1.77 trillion. Now, only 6 companies in the S&P 500 are currently worth more, and the estimated proceeds from the SpaceX IPO would easily top the previous record holder, Saudi Aramco, which raised $26 billion in 2019.
And finally, before you go this morning, what are people paying for NBA Finals tickets right now?
Well, if you want to get a ticket to one of these games in New York, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Tickets to the NBA Finals are so hot that fans are spending thousands of dollars even for the nosebleed seats. So the cheapest tickets to the New York Knicks home games at Madison Square Garden are selling for nearly $4,000 each on secondary marketplaces. And that's roughly 5 times the price to sit in the cheapest seats at the home of the San Antonio Spurs, where the two teams faced off last night. And some almost courtside seats, so not even courtside, just almost, near that celebrity row at MSG are listed for $220,000. Now, these sky-high prices in New York reflect the fact that, well, the Knicks haven't been to the NBA Finals in this century. The Garden is one of the most iconic venues in the world, and the region is home to plenty of sports fans with very deep pockets. And some people were saying it would actually cost less to buy plane tickets to and from San Antonio, rent a hotel, stay there for a few days and buy tickets there than it would be to try to get tickets in New York.
To the game. It's making me feel better, though, about what we paid to go see Boston and the New York Yankees back in the day in New York. So it was a pittance compared to these things you're talking about. All right. Thanks very much. It was like a once in a lifetime for us. It's like, wow, $220,000. I thought that was a typo.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Business News with Christelle Ramlakan on CBC. Well, we have a nice story coming up after 7 o'clock on the show. When you post something on Facebook, you might expect to get a few likes, maybe some comments, maybe some not so nice comments, but it was all positive for our guest we're going to talk to after 7. She received nearly 200 comments. She reached out looking for someone to talk to. She wants to improve her English speaking language skills and said she feels like talking is the best way. And she's not yet eligible to be enrolled in some of the programs to learn English. So she's going to share her story with us coming in after 7 o'clock. So stay with us right here. Next on the show, little music from Matt Zimmerman. He's a songwriter and he draws his experiences living across communities here in the prairies, like the city of Steinbach and the city of Brandon. This is Farmertown on 89.3.
One street light and a grain elevator. Railway cars are the main decorators in a farmer town. We got one of everything. One coffee shop that'll get the morning going. One gas station to keep the wheels rolling in a farmer town. We all know one thing. You're raised up right in a farmer town, working up a sweat till the sun goes down to the steel guitar with a lonesome sound. You're raised up right in a farmer town. A little swimming hole with some lakefront living, a watering hole for some bar stool sitting in a farmer town. We got one of everything. A big sunset is our late show ticket, narrated by all the hoppers and some crickets in a farmer town. We all know one thing. You're raised up right in a farmer town, working up a sweat till the sun goes down to the steel guitar with a lonesome sound. You're raised up right in a farmer town. Main Street Market, gotta run it up the ladder. You pick, we pick, it don't matter. In a farmer town, we got one of everything. A picnic at the beach or camping in the woods. Locals love to live where it feels good. In a farmer town, up right in a farmer town.
It's got some cool low notes there, right? That's a fun little ditty. That's Matt Zimmerman. He's a local songwriter. He has lived across communities like Steinbach and Brandon, and says he took inspiration from his living in those prairie cities to write that tune. It is called Farmer Town.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
Marjorie usually pops in at the end of our program after 8 o'clock to tell us about the topic for the call-in. So stay tuned and we'll find out what they've decided upon for today. Well, next on the show, one of the big topics of conversation today is going to be the federal government releasing this long-awaited AI strategy later this morning. Crystal Lee's been talking about business impacts. World Report's been covering the news on this. CBC, though, has already had a draft version of the strategy, had a look at a draft version. So let's talk more about what's in it. It contains plans for free AI literacy training, a promise to create jobs, and online protections for children. There are some critics worrying it's long on ambition and short on specifics. Francis Sims is our tech columnist and is here to walk us through it. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I did the headlines. Can you tell us more about what we actually know about the plan?
Yeah, so I think it's called AI for All. For anybody that wants AI, this is your moment. This is sort of the idea. It fits into, there's 6 pillars, but I really see it fitting into 3 buckets. The first one is adoption. There's going to be a lot of support in there to help Canadians both at a business level and a personal level learn about AI. The second thing is homegrown solutions. They're going to make sure that it's not just the data centers that are built in Canada, but the software running on those data centers is in Canada. And the third thing is protection for particularly our young people and people that are using AI across the country. On the jobs piece specifically, they talk about creating up to 90,000 jobs in AI for our young people. Think like summer internships, free AI literacy training for anybody that wants it in Canada through to 2031, and up to 250,000 jobs that are AI related. They're going to support the creation of through particular grants. So it's quite ambitious.
How behind is Canada in terms of AI adoption? You mentioned that right at the top. The adoption is of piece 1.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 polls that have come out in the last year. One from KPMG, University of Melbourne, Ipso poll just a couple of days ago, and StatsCan last year. And the summary is this. Only about 1 in 8 Canadian businesses are actively using AI, and about 2/3 of Canadian businesses polled by StatsCan last year said that they now have no plans to use AI. Well, that's the opposite of the U.S. They say it's approximately 2/3 of American companies that are actually using AI on a regular basis. So that's problem number 1. At an individual level, only about half of Canadians are actually using AI from time to time, whereas 2/3 of Americans are using AI. And then in terms of anxiety, Canadians have some of the highest anxiety in the world around the harms that can be caused by AI, which is no surprise given what we've seen in Tumbler Ridge.
You mentioned safety. A big concern in the country has been the impact of AI on youth, especially after you mentioned Tumbler Ridge as well, with the ties to ChatGPT in that case. How strong is the government's strategy on that front then?
This is the piece that's the hardest. I think it's easy for the federal government to announce an investment of $1 million or $100 million, but changing the laws that relate to safety and holding the big tech firms accountable is not easy. Canada is a small fish in a big pond, and the moment we tell a tech firm that they have to implement some rule to protect our young people, we hear them complain and say they may walk away or they may leave the country. Because unless they're doing it in Europe or doing it in the United States, they're not interested in changing it just for us. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to see language in there around how they're going to protect young people. They're going to put some limits, age limits, which is great. But implementing that is going to take some time, and changing a new law around online harms. We had one 2 years ago when government was prorogued and it never came back. So I think there's going to be lots of language today, but I don't expect it's going to change overnight.
How can the government prioritize sovereignty when most AI companies are American? I mean, we're running into that a little bit here with not with AI, but with social media, because the provincial ban is something that our government is saying is coming. And they're saying they're going to put, someone in charge, a commissioner, I think is the word they're using, from the provincial level to work with the companies. And these are mostly American companies as well. So I'm just wondering, when it comes to our sovereignty at the federal level, what do you see that's going to help us?
Yeah, I mean, Premier Canoe was talking about banning AI chatbots for any young person. So I think that's a bold move. 85% of the software that runs on these data centers is controlled by 3 American companies, according to reporting from CBC. One is Amazon, one is Microsoft, and one is Google. And what that means is American companies are subjected to the American Cloud Act. And even though there's a lot of talk that they're not going to use our data to train their models, the problem is if a U.S. government or the federal authorities down there issue a warrant for data that's on a server owned by, say, Amazon, they have to produce it, even if it's Canadian data sitting in Canada. Because it's owned by an American company, they have to produce it. And so think about like our CRA tax returns. What happens if they start to be processed by AI on a data center owned by Amazon, for example? Or if it's our health records, we go and do an X-ray and AI is helping determine if it's cancer or not. We don't necessarily want that data to be subjected to U.S. laws. That's problematic. So what the federal government is doing is announcing today, probably hundreds of millions of dollars towards companies that want to build AI solutions so that not just the hardware is in Canada, but the software that's running on that hardware is actually Canadian as well.
I guess we'll have to see how quickly things can be developed, though, here, which is going to be, we'll only know once we start moving here. On paper, this sounds promising. What are you watching for, though, as the government tries to execute this? Is what I alluded to part of that, how fast we can actually achieve the goals?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it because we're talking about like $1 billion of our tax dollars being invested in AI infrastructure. And when you hear the likes of, like, say, ChatGPT say they're spending $2 billion a year, how do we compete? So, there may be sort of, something we can do to have enough software that's Canadian grown to protect our Canadian data. We're not going to be the next Silicon Valley, but the first piece is I worry about the transparency and accountability on that spend. I want to make sure 5 years from now we say that was a good investment and not like a waste of money, our hard-earned tax dollars. The second thing is the training. I want to make sure the training gets down to the people that are working on the farms, working in Tim Hortons, and not just the people that are in the big tech firms. It can't just be a link on a website. It has to get to the people where they are through the colleges, polytechniques that we already have across the country, community centers, because otherwise it'll be an equity thing. Not everybody, like you think about a lot of the rural areas, like Indigenous communities, how are we going to train them on AI usage? It's not a straightforward thing in a lot of the rural areas across the country. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is the safety piece. I want to make sure that it's more than just a piece of paper that says this is what we're going to do. We need a project plan that says here is how we're going to do it, and we're going to make sure we hold the government accountable to hitting those milestones that they've laid out, because we cannot have another tragedy unfold in this country.
All right. Thanks for this, Francis. Always appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So technology columnist Francis Sims, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber Polytechnic. Coming up on World Report, we'll hear more about the politics behind the policy as we get ready for the AI direction to be announced today at the federal level. So it's 4 minutes now to 7 o'clock. And if that announcement comes, by the way, before the end of the show, I should look at when Mark Carney's expecting to make it. We'll look that up. If it's before the end of the show, though, we'll certainly get that on here on the air for you. But it's 4 minutes to 7 right now, so we'll have World Report up shortly. In Winnipeg, currently downtown outside of our CBC studio here on Portage Ave by U of W, it's really nice. Beautiful blue sky. People are walking calmly. You can always tell when it's nice weather. People enjoying the walk to work or to school, wherever they're headed. Out the window, lots of people just sort of chilling out. And why not? You don't need a jacket today. You shouldn't have to worry about showers. We still have a 30% chance with us that it'll rain today, but lighter than yesterday and a more reasonable day. So a high of 21, although with Humidex 25. Right now it's 15. Brandon's partly cloudy. It's 13 degrees. And in Thompson, it's partly cloudy and it's 5 degrees. Brandon, you're going to head for 21, 30% chance of showers, exactly like Winnipeg. And up in Thompson, very similar too, but even nicer, a mainly sunny day. And a high of 20. The commute's fine, 788-3093 if you do see something that we should pass along. After 7 o'clock on the show this morning, how a post on Facebook in Manitoba asking to connect to our community turned into a volunteer position for a Ukrainian woman in Winnipeg.
I decided to ask for help in this community, and wow, you know how many messages I had. I had more than 200 messages. And I was absolutely shocked. I cried. I told my husband, I can't believe it. It is amazing. So many people want to help me. People in Manitoba are really friendly. I answered message for 4 days.
We're going to talk to her after 7 o'clock about what prompted her post and also about the wonderful response to it. Plus, Amanda Boozy will be with us. She fell into the role of entrepreneur. Now she wants to highlight the stories of other local businesses. She has an upcoming television show called Made in Winnipeg. We'll hear about the project. Right now, let's find out what's making news in our news center with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, a Canadian Armed Forces sergeant facing charges for assaulting military police testified at her court-martial in Winnipeg this week. We're going to hear about Sergeant Athena Morris, what she wanted the military to do, and what actually happened. Outreach workers at the Salvation Army have helped get about 200 people off the streets of Winnipeg since October and into transitional housing. 88 have found permanent housing. We're going to hear from a Salvation Army outreach worker coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, that's Heather Wells live in our news center. Thank you. Stay with us. World Report's next. It's 1 minute to 7 o'clock on CBC on your Thursday morning, June 4th. More local programming after national and international news.
On the current.
But when a man says my husband, it's just like, I don't know, it's like he's saying my unicycle.
You never know what David Sedaris is going to talk about. The essayist and comedian tackles everything from his Duolingo obsession to his visit with Pope Francis, all with his trademark deadpan delivery. David Sedaris joins Matt Galloway on The Current. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin with an update on a CBC investigation into AI deepfakes of dozens of Canadian women. As the number of alleged victims grows, the wife of one of the accused is speaking out in support of them. Multiple women have told CBC News they feel violated and terrified after learning pictures of themselves were manipulated into nude and violent imagery using artificial intelligence. The CBC's Kayla Hounsell has been speaking with Gwen Frankton about the man she thought she knew.
I would say loving and amiable relationship.
Gwen Frankton says she met Stephen Lowe, her husband of 21 years, in Nunavut. They eventually moved to Ottawa before settling in Maitland, Nova Scotia, a small village around 85 kilometers north of Halifax. In the early hours of a snowy February morning, the police showed up at her door to arrest her husband.
That was a total shock, and at the beginning, inexplicable.
Frankton is now in the process of filing for divorce. Lowe is facing dozens of charges, including harassment, uttering threats, possessing and publishing obscene material, as well as child sexual abuse material. The allegations have not been proven in court. A second man, Peter Van Beek, is also facing charges. Inspector Pascal Labine is with the Ottawa Police Service, the lead agency in the case.
We are now in excess of 50 victims in this particular case, and I wouldn't be surprised that additional charge may also be laid.
Frankton says as a spouse who is neither accused nor a named victim, it's been difficult to access information.
Throughout this process, I felt sometimes as if I was the only person that ever had this happen to them, but that cannot be true.
She is speaking out, hoping to start a conversation about supports available for people who are not formally victims of alleged crime, but remain deeply affected. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
In a few hours, Prime Minister Mark Carney will be in Toronto to unveil Canada's long-awaited National Artificial Intelligence Strategy. Ottawa says the plan will introduce new measures to ensure AI is developed safely and securely and will also aim to improve the daily lives of Canadians. Just days from the start of the World Cup, a major campaign is launching to deliver what organizers call the biggest complaint FIFA has ever received. Activists are demanding formal ethics investigations into President Gianni Infantino's over ticket costs, safety concerns, and political neutrality. Joining us now with the details is the CBC's Linda Ward. Linda, what exactly is triggering this class action style complaint right now?
Well, John, we're 1 week from the World Cup and the cracks are showing. The Reboot campaign is run by a UK nonprofit called Fair Square. This is a group of football activists, writers who've long complained about FIFA's governance since even before the last World Cup. They say FIFA isn't fit to govern world football and needs to be completely rebooted with a focus on the interest of players, supporters, communities, and not what they call corrupt football elites. So they're complaining about everything from safety issues to ticket prices, human rights, what they call dysfunction and corruption. And remember last year when FIFA President Gianni Infantino attended Donald Trump's Summit for Peace, awarded him that FIFA Peace Prize? Well, they say that breached the FIFA Code of Ethics to remain politically neutral.
And so, Linda, what kind of changes are they hoping for?
Well, they're hoping that this will force FIFA to overhaul its whole structure, John. They're calling for better auditing of money, transparency, accountability, and separation of commercial and governance functions to eliminate any potential conflicts of interest. They're encouraging people to add their name to this complaint and planning to send it to FIFA's ethics committee after the World Cup is over. But FIFA says they've already done all of this: yearly independent audits, transparent financial reports, separation of executive and commercial functions, that they've already transformed governance and management reforms over the last decade. But some national organizations don't agree. Norway's Football Federation has already written to FIFA's ethics committee in support of this complaint. They say they're going to push this forward as soon as the World Cup's over, John.
Linda Ward joining us here in studio. Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
Israel and Lebanon say they've agreed to a ceasefire again. Representatives from both countries met in Washington to seal the deal aimed at halting attacks from both Israel and the militant group Hezbollah. The announcement comes after several weeks of heavy fighting. The CBC's Willie Lowry is in northern Israel with the latest.
Lawrence Tendler looks out across a valley from a viewpoint in the northern Israeli community of Malkiah. The shimmering lights of the Lebanese village of Bint Jabal are just visible in the distance. After weeks of heavy fighting between the Israeli military and Hezbollah, diplomats from Israel and Lebanon agreed to a ceasefire. But Tendler says it could all fall apart in seconds.
So you're safe here, you can see it's safe, but everything's fragile, it can change. But it's safe here.
In a statement, the U.S. State Department, who brokered the deal, said, quote, "The ceasefire is contingent on a complete cessation of Hezbollah fire and the evacuation of all Hezbollah operatives from the South Litani sector." It's not the first time that Hezbollah has been ordered to stop operating from south of the Litani River, a waterway that cuts across much of southern Lebanon and at times is 30 kilometers away from the Israeli border. Under the agreement, the Lebanese armed forces will begin taking control of the area by establishing a series of pilot zones in the hopes it will eventually replace Hezbollah and lead to a lasting and comprehensive peace. Hezbollah has still not commented on the ceasefire. Meanwhile, the Israeli military and Hezbollah continue to trade fire. The UN says a peacekeeper in Lebanon was killed and 2 others injured in shelling. Willie Lowry, CBC News, near Hanita, Israel.
China is angry over recent comments from the U.S. Secretary of State marking the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square protests. In an online post, Marco Rubio said Beijing's censorship wouldn't erase memories of the deadly crackdown. The spokesperson for China's foreign ministry, Miao Ning, accused the U.S. of interfering in Chinese affairs. China is firmly opposed to the U.S. distorting historical facts, Mao said. 37 years ago, troops fired on protesters in Tiananmen Square to end pro-democracy rallies. Hundreds of people were killed. The anniversary is not officially marked in China. A manhunt is back on in northern Saskatchewan after police released 2 suspects without charges. The pair were arrested Monday following a shooting on a remote Pelican Narrows First Nation that left a 28-year-old woman dead near a local clinic. The Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation says the news the shooter is still loose is disheartening. Schools in the community are closed for the rest of the week. The Vegas Golden Knights head into the second game of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, up 1-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes. At the center of their championship run is Canadian goaltender Carter Hart. His journey has been both highly successful on the ice and deeply controversial off of it. Karen Pauls reports.
The booing started early in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. The chanting followed. Carolina Hurricanes fans watching goaltender Carter Hart on hockey's biggest stage.
It was really nice to see the Canes fans chanting "No means no."
Kelly Favreau is a survivor of sexual assault and co-founder of a group called Beyond the Verdict.
Shows that the fans are now starting to realize the NHL isn't really holding anyone accountable right now.
Hart was one of 5 players from Canada's 2018 World Junior team charged with sexual assault after a Hockey Canada event celebrating their victory. He, Michael McLeod, Alex Formanton, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote were acquitted of all charges. The judge ruled the allegations lacked sufficient credibility to warrant conviction. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman described the players' conduct like this.
Abhorrent, reprehensible, horrific, and unacceptable.
But after the league cleared them to play, Vegas snapped up Hart.
I think fans want to see their team win.
Mark Anderson is a sports reporter for the Associated Press in Las Vegas.
And you could say, well, the courts didn't find him guilty, so why should I blame him?
While the debate follows Hart off the ice, his success on it has been undeniable. Vegas is now just 3 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup, and Hart is in the running for the Conn Smythe Trophy, awarded to the team's playoff MVP. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. More than 60,000 people follow World Report, and you can too. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Thursday morning, June the 4th. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for spending some time with us. It's the morning show on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Nice day out there. A little bit milder than yesterday, but still nice and sunny. So we don't have a dark start to the day with cloud cover. We do have a chance of showers still today. Abby's going to talk about that in a moment. This half hour on the program, we are going to be hearing about a Facebook post asking to connect to community, turn into a volunteer position for a Ukrainian newcomer in Winnipeg. She got such a beautiful response. She's going to come in and tell us all about it, so we'll hear that. Also, we'll hear from the new host of a new show called Made in Winnipeg. It's a TV series celebrating local entrepreneurs who make things with their hands. And then at 10 to 8, an I-Team story. Winnipeg is in the middle of a drug epidemic, according to frontline workers who say the historic surge in drug overdoses is killing people and overwhelming first responders. The I-Team will be in with what they've learned. And then we're going to ask the Premier about it coming up after 8. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for other stories. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party has barred one of its leadership candidates from running for the party in Turtle Mountain. The PC say they have told Wally Dowdrich he cannot seek the party nomination in that southwest Manitoba constituency. Last year, Dowdrich said he intended to run in Turtle Mountain, where the current MLA is not running again. The number of people dying in highway crashes in Manitoba is skyrocketing. RCMP say 27 people have been killed since January. 3 Manitobans have been killed in 3 separate crashes this week alone. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Abby, what's up in the weather then?
I'll get my headphones there. It's a pleasant morning here in the province, Marcy. We're looking at the wild temperatures across the regions. Winnipeg here, we're beginning the morning with sunny skies and current temperatures around 16 degrees. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today. That will be the condition through the day. We do have that slim chance of showers sometime in the afternoon. We will only get to a high of 21 today, and it's going to remain breezy at some point. While across the board, that's what we are seeing, 16s across most of the regions, except for the northern part, where we're still seeing a light rain towards Norway House and Fling Flam this morning. But Winnipeg right now, 16, sunny, we get to 21.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's go to Corey Funk, who is here to talk about the commute.
Yes, the only issue out there right now is at Main and Selkirk. Those lights are flashing red, so might be a bit of a backup as people treat that as a four-way stop. Other than that, though, if you do see something going on, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I alluded to, a call out to community on social media turned into a wonderful connection point and volunteer position for the person we're about to hear from. Her name is Irina Maximenko. She has been living in Canada since the war began in Ukraine, and she continues to find her place in Winnipeg. She works as a fitness instructor and she works with animals, but Irina says she's still in the permanent resident process. That means that many English programs are not available to her yet, and it leaves her feeling lonely because of that language barrier. So she decided to take matters into her own hands. She made a Facebook post in an effort to practice her English and connect with community. She offered to help with companionship to seniors, whether it's around the house or going for a walk, in exchange for a chance to practice her English with them. We've previously had Irina on the air talking about her fitness journey, and she came into studio yesterday about this.
I have a little problem with my English. And I believe learning English is like a sport. You need to practice every day. If you just still at home and learn only grammar, you never can speak. So I posted in Transcona Facebook group about my problem. And I think if I will help seniors in your house, it's a win-win for us. I will help seniors and they will help me with my English practice.
I love this post. I want to read part of it to people. So you post, as you said, that you're looking for help with your English. And you wrote, quote, "I miss simple communication, conversations, and the feeling of belonging." And then you wrote, "I even had an interview with CBC once. It was one of the scariest experiences."
What did CBC? Invite me again. I say, I have a stress. Okay, Irina. Come in.
Well, I'm glad you decided to come back.
See you next year again?
Yeah, exactly. This is for good reason, though. So people responded, like 200 people wrote back and said they would help.
Yes.
Yeah.
200 people. I'm already I shocked.
Yeah.
I cried. I talk about this. My husband. I can't believe it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. I say it.
Yeah. You have goosebumps. You cried. You were shocked at all the responses.
So many program closed. All program closed for newcomer now. I haven't document. I still waiting a document. I haven't permanent pair. So maybe after 2 years, I will start learn English. But I can't wait.
Yeah.
I won't talk.
Yeah. It's interesting because you offered your services, like you said, you dog walker, seniors, be with seniors, and you got responses. Are you meeting with a senior citizen next week?
Yes, I hope. Yeah, I hope next week I will see. But tomorrow I will see my first family. They are 93 years old. I will help around house, their house. Mm, I will help with simple things,
Mhm.
and I think they need to useful for me. They will help me with my English.
Yeah.
I think when you I don't know how I will be feel myself in 93 years old, but I think seniors will want to help.
Yeah. So that's lovely. So a family connected with you. You're going to go to the home and help the 93-year-old person around the house, simple things, and then,
Yeah.
speak English with them.
Yeah. Of course.
How hard is it to learn a language like English in a country like Canada, brand new country?
I never planned to move from my home country. I had a wonderful life. I had a wonderful business. But the war started. We here with my husband. It is difficult when you are an active person, but you speak like a child.
Got it.
Understand?
Yeah.
But I believe will be great.
So beyond being with the senior citizen, did a seniors care home is going to get you to? Are you going to be volunteering with them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you feel when you read all the responses and you got the offer? They must feel amazing to see the people responding.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah.
Yes. It's really amazing. I answered for 4 days.
Wow.
I'm answering now. Now I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I answer. Yesterday I had meet with wonderful woman. Karen, she is 83 years old. She doesn't need my help. She invited for coffee and speak with me 2 hours. She's amazing.
Wow.
I'm really so happy. Manitoba is very friendly. I understood this from my first day in Winnipeg.
Why did you feel that right away? Were people right away kind to you?
Yeah. Always. They always help me. Always. Canadian people friendly. I always say Winnipeg is a war city, even the weather cold, because people is so warm.
How do you feel about Transcona?
It's interesting history because my friends few months ago helped me with. We were looking for space for my bungee class. Finding space, finding studio in Winnipeg, it's so difficult. And she made a post in Transcona group. She had amazing response, and I decided to ask about help again. And you know what next? What I had so many messages.
I'm wondering in the care home place, what you will do. Is it like a volunteering with the people there?
I think I can drive for store, for movie, for I don't know what for art gallery.
Not sure yet. Yeah. What else has been helping you learn English here?
What helped it?
Does it help when you're out and about talking with people? A little bit?
Little bit.
Yeah. Tell me about the apps you use. Do you use ChatGPT and you said Google Translate?
Yes. Yeah, I use always ChatGPT because it's very difficult for me, really.
Yeah. How is it? Does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Better than Google Translator.
Okay.
So many people texted me, "Oh, you have amazing English. We saw your post." I'm sorry, it's not my post. It's my stories, but I can't beautiful writing.
Got it. So it helped you post it in English.
Yeah.
I love your story.
Thank you.
Good luck with your journey to continue learning English.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah,
And-
I will continue.
And Jacques for coming back to CBC.
Thank you.
I think she appreciated the thank you in Ukrainian, but I appreciated Irina coming into studio yesterday just to talk about this. It's wonderful that she got a good response from community when she reached out to try to practice her English language skills before she gets official status to join some of the courses. Irina Maximenko is a Ukrainian newcomer. She lives here in Winnipeg.
The puck may have dropped on the playoffs, but the news doesn't stop for hockey. I'm Brittany Greenslade, host of CBC Winnipeg News at 6. To get your local news, stream CBC Winnipeg News at 6, 24/7 on CBC Gem, the CBC News app, and selected streaming platforms. CBC Winnipeg News at 6, your local news on your favorite streaming device.
7:22 a.m. the time right now. It's 16 degrees in Winnipeg. Lots of sunshine out there. But this tune is actually nodding to what we've had and what we're likely going to get moving forward. This is Leroy Stagger. He tours from city to city, and his time on the road inspired this new song. It's a good road trip tune. This is Summer Rain.
All my heroes leave me for a minute. I'm stuck inside a rental with the city blues again. If you're looking for an empty place, I'm in it. I ride a while and fill it up again. There's hurricane clouds up on the horizon. Get ready for a heavy summer rain coming down again. A picture of us sits upon the dashboard. Can you recall a better time than that? You're hung up on what's left of what I'm feeling. I'm calling now to tell you where I'm at. There's hurricane clouds up on the horizon. Get ready for a heavy summer rain. Get ready for a heavy summer rain. Coming down again on the highway. Coming down again in my mind. Coming down again. Coming down. Come again. Come again. Tell me that you're mine. When looking for myself in Nova Scotia, you could have found me there in PEI. The Confederation slips into my rear view. I will return a pilgrim by and by. There's hurricane clouds up on the horizon. Get ready for a heavy summer rain. Get ready for a heavy summer rain. Coming down again on the highway. Coming down again in my mind. Coming down again. Coming down, come again. Come again. Tell me that you're mine.
Leroy Stagger out of BC, and his new album's called Pilgrimage. You can find this tune on it. It's called Summer Rain. Well, before we get into other sports, let's talk about yesterday. Another hot day for the Goldeyes. So they played at 11 in the morning, so they avoided the summer rain that came a little later in the day. But unfortunately, they're not doing great or haven't been doing great in the series. The Sioux Falls Canaries once again beat the Winnipeg Goldeyes at Blue Cross Park yesterday, if you were at that game Wednesday afternoon. Well, let's get to other sports this Thursday morning, and starting with basketball, and Powell McGowan to run us through. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So New York striking first last night in the NBA final.
Yeah, beating the Spurs in San Antonio, and they do that, the Knicks do, despite being down by as many as 14 points in the third quarter. But the Knicks kept pushing, grabbed a late lead, and it looked, Marcy, like we were going to have that classic last shot wins type of scenario, but instead New York scores the final 11 points last night. They win 105-95, and the Knicks have made a habit of this lately, staying in games, erasing late game deficits. Karl Anthony Towns was asked how they're able to do it.
This team has unity, it has camaraderie, and it was special. It was something I thought we showed the world last year. It got us far in the playoffs last year. We're having another year with each other, even more familiarity. Last year was a lot of change with me coming to the team, Kale, and just, obviously so many moving parts. So it's been something that has been building and has worked tremendously well for us.
Yeah, in the words of Raptors coach Darko Rajakovic, they are very much out-togethering their opponents. The Knicks have now won 12 straight games in these playoffs. Game 2 goes tomorrow night in San Antonio.
All right, let's move to the WNBA, where the other New York basketball team was also in action against Toronto.
Sort of a homecoming game for a bunch of members of the Tempo. Head coach Sandy Brondello coached in New York up until last year. Her Toronto assistant coaches were also on her staff in New York. And then you have the Tempo players who came over from the Liberty in the expansion draft. Isabel Harrison, who is injured, and Niara Sabally, who was drafted by New York and whose sister, Satu Sabally, now plays for the Liberty.
It's always nice to see her, honestly, because we don't see each other often. So it's not even the basketball aspect. It's more so the getting to spend some time with her and seeing her face to face. I think it means a little more for our family because they don't have to watch 2 separate games. Probably makes it a little harder for them just to who to root for and stuff. But I mean, it's always fun to play against her and just see her do what she does.
So a happy night for the Sabally family, not so much for the Tempo. They lose 97-82 and fall to 5-5 on the year. They're now off until a Sunday game against Chicago.
Let's end on soccer, Paul, and maybe potentially some good news on the injury front for Canada.
Yeah, potentially. It's, the line, Marcy, has been that Alphonso Davies is not going to be available for game 1 against Bosnia-Herzegovina. But as he works his way back from injury, we've heard him talk about how draining the injury has been, how hard it has been to stay hopeful as he tries to get back in time for the World Cup. And with all of us sort of resigned to him not being there for the group stage, head coach Jesse Marsch yesterday said this.
I know that the plan is that he won't be back for the first match, but he's a freak athlete, man. And this guy is a competitor. So without trying to put pressure on him, I really believe in Alphonso. We're taking it day by day. We're really trying to monitor where we are with everyone, but specifically Alphonso. He's shown to be a quick healer. We obviously know what an incredible athlete he is. So I'm not counting him out of anything.
The flip side to that optimism is that you have soccer analysts saying that maybe we don't see Davies at all in the group stage. I think I prefer to live in the world of Jesse Marsch's optimism, but we'll see what happens between now and next Friday.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. It's always a dance, though, right? Because if you put him out too early and then you're quicker to re-injure, then you don't have him if Canada actually does well in the group stage. And
exactly. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. All right, Paul, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Paul McGowan filling in for Scott Reguer on Morning Sports. You are with CBC this morning. Pretty nice out there. Everyone's in a better mood. I find that, though, driving is a little bit peskier. I don't know if we're all just in a rush getting to where we want to go or not worrying about conditions so much anymore. But there is a lot of construction out there to consider. And also, we need a little patience right around each other. But honestly, everything's been really good in this morning's drive. So I shouldn't be giving you the mother speech. But you can give us a call if you do see a problem out there. 788-3093. You're going to need your shades. You might need your umbrella later today. We do have a 30% chance of showers in Winnipeg. Coming up, speaking of our city, after 7:30, we are going to talk to the host of a new show called Made in Winnipeg. How did it get developed and what's it going to highlight? We'll find out. Your CBC News from Manitoba, though, is first.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is sunny, 16 degrees right now. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds for the day. Bit of a northwest wind this afternoon, keeping us slightly cooler than seasonal. A high today of 21. Frontline workers say Winnipeg is in the middle of a drug epidemic. Emergency calls related to opioids this year have skyrocketed. Data from the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service shows they responded to more than 800 opioid-related patients in April alone. Scott Wilkinson is a deputy chief with the Fire Paramedic Service.
Now it's the opioid-related issues, but also the methamphetamines that we're experiencing. The overall drug crisis is causing a vast amount of volatility.
Manitoba's chief medical examiner says drug-related deaths have surged this year, adding toxicology reports show vet tranquilizer and carfentanil are being mixed with other drugs. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour, right here on Information Radio. Outreach workers at the Salvation Army have helped get about 200 people off the streets of Winnipeg since October and into transitional housing. CBC reporter Josh Crabb has the story.
A garage door opens. Two Salvation Army outreach workers jump in a vehicle to help people who are homeless. One of them, Aaron Guidolin, says the work is both rewarding and challenging.
It's heartbreaking sometimes, hearing people's stories, seeing them homeless.
It's part of the Manitoba government's Your Way Home strategy to end chronic homelessness. Stephen Halderson says the end goal is to get people out of encampments and into permanent housing.
Some of the people we've been dealing with have been homeless since 2016.
Since October, they've helped move nearly 200 people into transitional units at the Salvation Army's Centre of Hope. Of those people, 88 have moved on to a permanent place to live where they continue to get personalized supports. Housing Addictions and Homelessness Minister Bernadette Smith says the level of help depends on each person's needs. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party has barred one of its leadership candidates from running for the party in Turtle Mountain. The PC say they have told Wally Dowdrich he cannot seek the party nomination in that southwest Manitoba constituency. Now, last year, Dowdrich said he intended to run in Turtle Mountain. The current PC MLA there, Doyle Panuke, is not running again. The party didn't say why Dowdrich is not permitted to seek the nomination. Dowdrich finished second to Abby Khan in a close leadership race last year. A Canadian Armed Forces sergeant is facing a court-martial this week after an altercation with military police. CBC's Santiago Arias Orozco has details.
Sergeant Athena Morris says it was a hostile and violent interaction. She was removed from 17 Wing in March by the military police. That incident now the focus of a court-martial case. During a pre-trial court hearing, Morris said she jumped over a counter and tied herself to a chair in an area of the base she didn't have clearance to enter. Morris testified this week that she did it to bring attention after she wasn't allowed to change her gender marker on a database. Court heard 3 military police ask Morris to leave the area, but she resisted. Morris says she was struck with a conducted energy weapon, pushed against the ground, and searched. She had to be sedated and taken to hospital. The sergeant was charged with assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. Those charges are being tried during the first court-martial at Winnipeg's Chippewa Navy Reserve in at least 23 years. Santiago Arias Orozco, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Carney government is set to unveil its new national strategy for artificial intelligence today. CBC News obtained a draft version earlier this week. It aims to scale up AI adoption, with Canada seen as lagging behind many other countries. You can hear more on this story, as well as other national and international news, coming up on World Report at 8. 3 Manitobans have been killed in 3 separate crashes in 3 days. RCMP say there has been an uptake in road fatalities, with 3 more deaths this year than at this time last year. 27 people have been killed on Manitoba highways since January. 3 recent fatalities involved semi-trucks. Aaron Dolinick is with the Manitoba Trucking Association.
You hear about commercial vehicles being involved in accidents. It hits close to home. Makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck.
RCMP warned drivers to be more alert. Don't touch your phone and slow down. The Manitoba government's trying to address questions about measles and the vaccine in the Southern Health Region. Associate Chief Medical Officer Jazz Atwal held a telephone town hall last night. Some callers question how severe the ongoing outbreak is and why the province is pushing so hard for vaccinations. Atwal says people who get the vaccine significantly lower their risk of severe outcomes.
We've had 49 hospitalizations related to the cases in Manitoba. The vast majority, greater than 95%, were unimmunized as well. And we know that at some point we likely see a death happen. I'm not here to scare people, but these are the numbers that we historically have. These are the numbers that other jurisdictions see as well.
Manitoba has had nearly 600 confirmed measles cases in this outbreak. Most are in the Southern Health region, where vaccination rates are the lowest in the province. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, Heather Wells, thanks.
Thank you.
That's our News Center Live with the latest stories this morning. Let's get into the latest weather for the regions with Abby Adiemi.
Yeah, Marcy, we got sunshine across the regions this morning. Looking at Winnipeg, let's start here. We see sunny conditions. Current temperatures around 16, 17 degrees, depending on where you are in the city. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds through the day. We do have that slim chance of showers sometime this afternoon before we get to our cool high of 21 today. And then we'll see those partly cloudy skies return overnight, where we dropped about 10 degrees. So expect a kind of cool overnight period. Then across the southern regions, we're looking at the Pembina Valley region sitting at 16 with a mix of sun and clouds, warming to 22. In the Westman region, we're seeing partly cloudy skies, though some sunny conditions in the mix at 13 degrees, warming to 21. The Parkland area, we're seeing 11 degrees there. Most of the regions get close to 19 degrees today, while in the Interlake region, we're enjoying some sunshine there. Current temperature is 16 degrees, warming to 21. Then if we look at the northern part of the province, we're seeing varied conditions. The Power of Flin Flon, for example, between 7 and 10 degrees. Light rain spotted there. Highs will be around 20. Norway House is at 8 degrees. Also getting rain this morning. High will be around 17. Thompson mostly cloudy at 5, warming to 20. While we go further north, we see Lynn Lake, Gillam, Tudula Lake. We're seeing temperatures close to 8 degrees, Mercy. All we'll see highs close to 21, while for the Churchill region, temperatures around 10 at this time, going to 17. So it's more like a beautiful day across board. Mild temperatures, except for that central region where we see rain at this time, but we should see highs close to 20 degrees in most of the areas. Winnipeg, we're warming to 21. We're warming to 21. We're currently at 16 right now.
Yesterday afternoon, when that thunder was rolling again, Abby, it was just like I instantly was 8 years old, because my sister's birthday's in June, and I remember all of her birthday parties. It would be like there'd be some huge storm. The sky would go dark. We'd be peering out the window, going, "Mom, are people still going to come for the party? I don't know." And inevitably, they would still show up, but we had to change a lot of plans if we had outdoor things. I remember, because it's just the season of really strong storms, although not as dark of a sky as the day before, but still that thunder rolling like mad.
I did that too. I was just looking out the window to see, are there people outside?
Yeah,
I was
one of those people outside. I was at a park with the kids when it started to pour and thunder.
Oh, you got caught.
Yeah, and I was biking, so I had to bike back, and I luckily had a little rain cover for the kids, but I got totally soaked.
Yeah,
but when we got home, I was like, the thunder had kind of stopped, but it was still raining a bunch, and I was like, "Kids, do you want to go inside, or do you want to run around in the rain?" They're like, "Let's run around in the rain." So
yeah, for sure. You know what? I love a good thunderstorm. As long as you're safe, if you can enjoy it, like the sounds of it are just all over the place. We've had some real classic prairie weather.
They're oddly relaxing despite the booms. I don't know what it is.
And I found yesterday was more prairie, and the day before was a little more scary. Yesterday was more classic for us. So I've been working on that for a while.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, I like that. Corey Funk is here because of the commute, which it's been quiet so far, eh?
Pretty quiet. Yeah, there was an issue at Main and Selkirk. The lights were flashing red. That's not an issue anymore. But if you do see something going on, if you want to give me a call on the commuter line, if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, would love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Next on the show, some Winnipeg businesses are about to get their 15 minutes of fame. Local entrepreneur and chair of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, Amanda Boozy, is hosting a new Rogers television show, Made in Winnipeg. It's going to highlight hardworking Winnipeg jewelry artists, fashion designers, and other makers. And she's promising kind of an upbeat road trip feel. If you watch the Food Network's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, kind of like that. But this road trip is celebrating artisans who call the Peg home. Amanda is on the line with us now to tell us more about it. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Good. So before we talk about this, tell us a little bit about your own entrepreneur story for those people, Amanda, that don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So I own Cole and Canary, which is a candle company. We are based here in Manitoba, And we actually started about 12 years ago in my kitchen. I am very unlike many entrepreneurs who never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I was a graphic designer for about 10 years, absolutely loved it, loved my 9 to 5, and then got into making candles after I had a kind of an emergency surgery. So I was at home on bed rest and needed something to do with my hands and started making candles. And from there, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. 3 months after we got into the Grammy and Oscar gift bags and just continued growing. So that was 12 years ago, but everything to this day is still made here in Manitoba and by hand. So it's a labor of love, and we just love our local community so much, and we're so proud to be from here.
What kind of businesses do you want to showcase on the show?
So do you know what? It's going to be such an incredible, diverse group. I mean, Winnipeg, I really want people to see the real Winnipeg. So diverse cultures, different backgrounds, different generations. I think Winnipeg has some of the most inspiring stories. And there's so many incredible artisans and people who are making products with their hands. And as an entrepreneur myself, I know how much work goes on behind the scenes. And so I really want to create something that shines a light on the passion and the creativity and the resilience that these amazing artisans have in our city. So it's going to be anyone from someone who might make beverages to someone who is an artist to, someone who, makes chocolate, maybe like any sort of item that is made by hand. We want to feature that.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives, which I've watched a lot with Guy Fieri. Tell us a little bit how you're channeling that vibe. Are you going to frost your tips?
Well, those who know me know I would probably do that. I always have different hair. So, no, do you know what? I've always been a fan of that show. And
me too.
And this is actually, this has always been a dream of mine too, I'm really lucky with my business. We do a lot of traveling to different markets coast to coast. And so I've had the pleasure to meet, an opportunity to meet so many incredible entrepreneurs who, again, are making these handmade businesses across the country. And I thought, we need a show that shares these incredible stories and, really spotlights these incredible products that these local artisans are making. And so I love the vibe and the feel of that show. And I really want it to be a feel-good, upbeat story that, really digs deep into the why and why these people are doing this. And then kind of shows, the behind the scenes of how they're making their products.
So you're going to be very fun. So you're going to be with people where they're making as you go on this road trip and making with them as well?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I'm going to mess up a couple things, so apologies in advance, but it's all part of the fun. I just really want to show, what kind of pull back the curtain on what they're doing and how they're doing it.
You put a call out. I understand you've already received 85 potential feature businesses that want you to visit. You have to choose 16. Tell me what you're looking for in terms of the core values when you look for the showcasing, as you put it, the real Winnipeg, to celebrate the real Winnipeg.
Yeah, for sure. So I had done this call out on social media, and it's kind of crazy. I wasn't quite expecting the response that I got, which is amazing. I was very, very surprised. It's had about, I think, 30,000 views and tons of shares. That's just on Instagram alone, and there's more on Facebook and LinkedIn, etc. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm looking for people who genuinely love what they do and have a story to tell. People who are creating something meaningful, again, whether, it's the product, the experience, the community impact, etc. I think sometimes the best stories aren't always the biggest businesses, but I think they're the people who are quietly doing extraordinary things behind the scenes. So I'm really excited to meet these people, and it's going to be really hard. I'm working on narrowing it down right now, and I have this incredibly extensive list. I'm really going through every single suggestion. But yeah, I'm excited to have like a nice, diverse group and a good mix.
Just last, obviously, it's also tough for businesses out there right now. There's rising costs, and some of the small entrepreneurs have been on our show talking about even, shipping to the States and having to change their markets because of what's been going on with tariffs and certain clauses and things that affect them. But there's big chains, long-term businesses have seen closures. Are you going to shy away from talking to the small makers about those challenges, or do you want to delve into that?
No, do you know what? I think it's part of our story. I think it's important for people out there to realize the hardships that entrepreneurs face. I mean, obviously, behind every successful business, there's this story of perseverance. And people always just see the finished product, but they don't always see the late nights, the risks, the economic hardships and the years of hard work that it took them to get there. So when we talk to them about, how they got into what they're doing, we're definitely going to be talking about, the wins and some of the hardships as well that they're facing. And how they persevered through them, because that is a reality of being an entrepreneur, especially these days. So absolutely, that's going to be part of the discussion for sure.
Thanks so much for doing this. I think you should invite Guy to come here and do a co-show with you.
That would be great. Maybe
Right?
guys, you're listening. I'm ready for you.
All right, Amanda, we'll be watching. You take care.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too. That's Amanda Boozy, founder of Coal and Canary and chair of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce. She's going to be airing her new show that she's hosting, Made in Winnipeg, highlighting local makers and creators on Rogers Television, and it will launch in the fall.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
Well, coming up on July 1st, it's Canada Day, but guess who's covering Canada Day nationally for CBC? Me and Corey. So if you would like to be part of that and show the rest of Canada all about Winnipeg, Manitoba, how you might be celebrating here or what you are thinking about on Canada Day from Manitoba perspective, reach out. radio893@cbc.ca. You can write to us. We'll pick it up there. radio893@cbc.ca. We've already collected a couple stories we think are going to be great to highlight, but we'd love to hear from you. 788-3205 is another way you can reach us. That is our listener line, 788-3205. 16 right now in Winnipeg, partly cloudy, though lots of sunshine downtown and a high of 21. Coming up still ahead in this half hour, we'll have the latest on the I-Team investigation that you may have heard a bit of in the news about Winnipeg's drug epidemic, that language being used now from frontline workers. Well, next in the show, a little bit of music from Elkhorn, Manitoba. This is Kendra Kay, and Say It Again.
Complicated, you know what you want and I like it. You know that I'm getting signals that you're sending. You want me, no way I can fight it. People talk
Well, we're getting ready for summer festivals, right? Kendra Kay, Say It Again, hails from Elkhorn. She's going to hit the festival circuit. Her next show's at Raise the Roof in Hamiota on June 19th. She's also playing Winnipeg Osis on July 4th. She's going to be busy. It's 9 minutes to 8 o'clock now. Next on the show, the face of addiction, as you've been hearing on the news this morning, is changing in Winnipeg. For the first time, opioids surpassed alcohol as the number one substance driving the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Services emergency response. The toxic drug supply, where vet tranquilizers and carfentanil are being mixed with other drugs, is leading to a historic surge in overdoses. The CBC's Kristen Annabelle is here to talk about what we've learned, and it's about its impact on our community. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us how you started looking into this.
So this began in April, and I've lived in West Broadway for years. And what I started noticing all around my neighborhood was I was seeing a lot of people actively using opioids, and there was an influx of fire trucks and ambulances reviving them. But, as any good journalist, I wanted to know, is this just happening in my neighborhood? What does the data say? And the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service keeps incredible numbers when it comes to their calls related to substance abuse, substance calls, and it's updated in real time. And when we looked at the numbers, what we saw that were opioid calls were surging. And this started in October, but then it really hit in April. And in April, first responders were called to over 800 times they were called for opioid-related calls. And that was compared to 240 patients in April of last year.
That's a huge difference, a big surge. Are more people also, as I alluded to, dying then from overdoses?
So we don't have a full picture of that yet because it takes the chief medical examiner a few months to determine a cause of death. But what Dr. John Eunice told us is that he is unequivocally, and now those were his words that he used, seen a surge in deaths. And he said toxicology reports are showing that metoclopramide, and that's a vet tranquilizer, is showing up. And this is concerning because it is resistant to naloxone, and that's the medication that paramedics rely on to revive people when they're overdosing. One of the people who died, sadly, was Alicia Wallen. She died in January of a fentanyl overdose. And the 32-year-old, she was described as this caring, wonderful woman who is fiercely protective of her friends. And here's her boyfriend, Jason Polonic, talking about her.
Wonderful. She was the most kindest girl you could ever meet. She had such a sweet, she was just so caring. She'd give her last $5 to somebody that needed it, maybe homeless, and she'd worry about other people over herself. Yeah, she was a wonderful girl.
Here, the impact on loved ones. How is all of this impacting first responders?
So this is something that the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service jumped at speaking to us about because they're seeing it every day. And they gave us incredible access to frontline workers to talk about what they've experienced. Last week, our producer, Joanne Levasseur, she went on a ride along with Amy Hancock. She is the Winnipeg's District Chief of Paramedic Operations. And within 45 minutes, they revived 2 people with naloxone. And in one case, they were responding to an unrelated call and somebody flagged them over to help someone overdosing. Here's what happened after Hancock's gave someone naloxone.
Come on, open your eyes. Tell me what's going on. I gave you some Narcan. We gave you some Narcan. So that'll wake you up a little bit more and make you feel a little bit better. Did you smoke it or inject it today? Can't hear you. Smoked it. Okay, do you typically inject? Pardon? No. Okay. I just can't hear you. Give me 1 second.
Mentioned.
Pardon me? Pardon me? You need some what? Sugar. Your sugar's actually a little bit high, George. What's your sugar normally? Like right now it's 12, so that's a little bit high. So you don't need any sugar. You might need some.
I don't understand about what they're seeing.
Their resources are being stretched to the brink right now, and they're facing increasing levels of violence on these calls, and that's mostly attributable to people using drugs like methamphetamines. But at the same time, they're going to dozens and dozens of overdose calls a day. Sometimes they're responding to the same person on multiple occasions in one day. Here's Scott Wilkinson. He's the Deputy Chief of Fire Operations, talking about the dangers they face now.
We've seen a significant escalation in the volume of the calls, the severity of the calls, and also the severity, the type of impacts on our crews. That we're getting a significant amount of issues where we're being threatened, where there's violence directed at crews, and in a lot of safety situations. This isn't something we used to see in the past, And the escalation of that is extremely concerning.
Have you talked to, Kristen, frontline organizations like Main Street Project who, are out there all the time about what they're seeing?
So we spoke to Jamil Mahmood, and he's Main Street Project's executive director. And Main Street, along with other organizations, called on the province in April to declare a public health emergency after they saw firsthand that people were dying because of this toxic drug supply. We spoke to him, and he said things haven't improved since then.
Worst that I've ever seen in this work, and it seems to be just getting harder now with the heat. The summer, last week and this week, the temperatures were quite high, so mixing in very toxic drug supply with, hot weather, dehydration, all these other things are just kind of leading to this, really challenging and emergency situation in the community.
What needs to happen to change things and stop the overdoses? Big question, but what have you heard?
So it's a tough question, and everyone we spoke to has different answers. Main Street Project's Jamil Mahmood says there needs to be a move towards safe supply, and that's where people are provided a regulated, safe, prescribed supply of drugs as an alternative to a street drug. And what they say is this would address the current issues they're seeing with the toxic drug supply. On Tuesday, the Manitoba government announced a $1 million fund to address the ongoing toxic drugs crisis. Jason Polonic, who I mentioned earlier, had lost his girlfriend to an overdose. He's made changes to his life. He's now in recovery. He's now working for St. Boniface Street Links. And he says there needs to be better and instant access to detox and housing so that people can get the help they need exactly when they ask for it, because right now they're dying waiting for treatment.
Because we run into people every day that they don't want to live like that no more, but they're just stuck. And we can't offer them a quick solution like that. It takes time to get them housing and get them into detox and stuff like that. It's just not instantly. But I think that'd make a big difference if we had some place like that.
We have a couple of questions to be putting to the Premier this morning, certainly out of your report, Kristen. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much.
Premier Wab Kinu's here after 8. We'll ask him about the idea of declaring what's happening with the drugs in our streets a public health emergency. And we'll also ask more about what we just heard there in terms of having faster access to detox beds. That is Kristen Annable from our I-team in CBC Manitoba. They'll have more in the story tonight as well to share at CBC News at 6 o'clock. We're coming up to 8 o'clock now. Let's go to Heather Wells, who is with us with headlines.
Well, outreach workers at the Salvation Army have helped get about 200 people off the streets of Winnipeg since October and into transitional housing. 88 have found permanent housing. The Salvation Army is one of the groups partnering with the province in the Your Way Home strategy. And the number of people dying in highway crashes in Manitoba is on the rise. RCMP say 27 people have been killed since January. 3 Manitobans have died in separate crashes this week alone. And 3 recent fatalities involve semi-trucks. We're going to hear from a Brandon-based trucker who wonders if training is an issue before drivers get behind the wheel. Those stories and more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from our news center. The drive's pretty good so far this morning. The commute is clear, 16 degrees in Winnipeg, a high of 21 today. And coming up, I alluded to the fact that the Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinu, will be here after 8 o'clock for a monthly interview, so stay tuned. That's live on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. World Report, though, is next. Stay with us.
On cue. Andrea Martin is one of the most beloved performers in comedy history. She was on SCTV.
Oh, hello?
Starred in movies. Won 2 Tonys on Broadway. She'll be here to tell you about her incredible life and the last time she saw her good friend, the late Catherine O'Hara.
It doesn't feel like she's gone.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10, 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. You never know what David Sedaris is going to talk about. The essayist and comedian tackles everything from his Duolingo obsession to his visit with Pope Francis, all with his trademark deadpan delivery. David Sedaris joins Matt Galloway on The Current in half an hour.
The
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. The federal government is set to unveil its new national strategy for artificial intelligence. At an event in Toronto, Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce new safety, security, and privacy rules for machine learning. For a closer look at the plan, we're joined by CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. So, Janice, this policy has faced delays and a lot of shifting public opinion. What's the motivation for this announcement now?
Well, I'll be listening today to how the government ties this into its bigger sovereignty agenda. As artificial intelligence emerges in more and more ways, there is a serious threat if Canada is relying on cloud storage and server facilities outside its jurisdiction. When the government considers infrastructure for its building agenda, it has to consider things like where these data centers are going to go, who's going to build them, which is why we've seen AI facilities tied to other industrial development strategies, like the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta, for example, to build a bitumen pipeline, or the government's major ramp-up of defence investments. And this strategy also has to consider sovereign human resources, measures to try to keep the best and the brightest in this field here in Canada, building up research institutions, scaling up startups, training Canadian workers and users to be savvy, to be competitive, to lead in this sector, and to approach AI with the appropriate sensitivity to unique Canadian needs, as opposed to just accepting tech that was developed with other countries' priorities in mind.
So, Janice, let's talk about the economics of all this. We know the tech sector has money, so what is the taxpayer involvement in all of this?
Yeah, and with all the needs out there, it might be difficult for some to accept that tech companies need public money right now. But there are concerns that small and medium-sized businesses can't or won't adopt these technologies without support, could fall behind. The Carney government's new Sovereign Wealth Fund may be used to invest in top AI firms, although the details on that remain a bit murky. And instead of simply giving priority companies handouts, the strategy also envisions taking an equity stake in AI. So as the government helps them to scale up, their long-term success could reap benefits for the public purse in return. The strategy also talks about government being not just a funder, but a customer for these companies, using the Office of Digital Transformation to find more and more ways to use AI in government and figure out what public administration challenges could be solved through digital innovation.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
Now, Ottawa says its new carbon pricing deal with Alberta will bring stability to the carbon market and hold heavy emitters accountable. But a new study out this morning raises some serious doubts. It warns the agreement won't actually cut emissions from the oil and gas sector. And David Thurton explains.
Carbon pricing is really important, industrial carbon pricing.
Dave Sawyer with the Canadian Climate Institute has been looking at the numbers, modeling the impact of Ottawa's new carbon pricing deal with Alberta. 3 weeks ago, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his deal with Premier Daniel Smith would fix her province's broken system for pricing carbon emissions.
This is Alberta and Canada coming together. It's about having a carbon market that functions.
But a new analysis from the Canadian Climate Institute is skeptical. It found that even with the new changes, Canada won't be any further along on previous commitments to reduce its carbon footprint.
The emission reductions we're getting out of the deal are not really significant.
And that's the optimistic scenario. If both Carney and Alberta follow through on an oil pipeline to the west coast, any potential emission reduction would be lost, leaving Canada further from achieving its climate targets. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada and its Five Eyes partners are warning that Chinese spies are posing as recruiters on sites like LinkedIn and Indeed. The new security alert says that operatives are using fake job postings to target current and former government employees and military personnel. Applicants are often asked to write trial reports for money, a tactic meant to trick them into revealing state secrets. The Chinese embassy in London strongly denies the claims, calling them malicious slander. Officials from Israel and Lebanon say they have agreed to a new peace deal. This as explosions continue to rock southern Lebanon despite reports of a new agreement, and Hezbollah's leader is rejecting the proposed ceasefire and demanding a complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from Lebanon. Donald Trump may be facing a setback over his conflict with Iran. The U.S. House of Representatives is forcing the president to seek congressional approval for the war or withdraw American forces. The House passed the War Powers Act with Republican support. The CBC's Chris Reyes joins us now from Washington. So, Chris, break down the vote for us.
Yeah, good morning, John. So it took every Democrat and 4 Republicans in the House to get this legislation over the finish line after multiple failed attempts, which tells you that momentum has been building against the president's war in Iran. This legislation doesn't automatically trigger an end to the war. It's considered mostly a symbolic vote at this point. But it does send a message to the president that members of his own party are willing to stand up to him as this conflict continues with no end in sight. Representative Thomas Massey has been one of Trump's more vocal challengers within the Republican Party. Here's what he said about the vote.
I'm excited that it did pass. The people are tired of this. They're tired of $5 a gallon gas and $6 a gallon diesel and fertilizer we can't afford to put on our fields in Kentucky. So I think it sends a good message that the People's House, which represents the people, is tired of this war.
Massey is standing his ground, but it is worth noting that he recently lost the primaries to a Trump-backed candidate, which means he will not be running for re-election in November.
So, Chris, what's next?
So the Senate will now vote on this measure where the Republicans also have a slim majority. Some Democrats say the message alone that the president's war in Iran is illegal is powerful enough should this legislation pass in both chambers. Still, Trump will likely challenge it.
Chris Reyes in Washington. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
In New Delhi, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed Venezuelan interim president Delcy Rodriguez. The two leaders shook hands in front of cameras outside Hyderabad House before heading inside for emergency energy talks. India is facing severe supply disruptions because the war in the Middle East has virtually closed the Strait of Hormuz, cutting off 40% of India's usual crude imports. To make up for the shortfall, New Delhi is turning to South America. India is now the second largest buyer of Venezuelan oil. A BC man convicted in the deaths of his 3 children is now on a conditional release. A provincial review board says Alan Schonborn must attend a psychiatric clinic for treatment. He must also report any intimate relationships and not possess any weapons or drugs. Schonborn killed his children in their Merritt, BC home in 2008. They were 5, 8, and 10 years old. He was found not criminally responsible for their deaths 2 years later. Schonborn legally changed his name to Ken John Johnson in 2001. Wild oyster fishers on Prince Edward Island are struggling to keep their heads above water. Their industry is grappling with 2 diseases, and they're killing mollusks at a record rate. And some say they may quit their livelihood altogether because of the problem. Nancy Russell has their story.
Wild oyster fishers say it has been tough going so far this spring. 2 oyster diseases are taking a toll on the rivers where they fish. MSX and dermo are not harmful for humans, but are killing oysters in big numbers.
It's just heartbreaking because you're fishing them and then in the back of your head it's like, is there anything going to be alive next year? You're always thinking of the future to come because this spring everybody said, oh, there's going to be a few dead, but until you really get in the water and you start fishing, you don't realize how bad it is.
Tammy Coughlin and her husband Randy have been fishing oysters together for more than 30 years.
So we usually get 10 boxes a day, and now we're down to 4 boxes a day. By the time you get everything paid, it's just hard to make a living at it anymore.
Amanda Wagner and her husband also fish oysters together. They have left their home 2 hours away and moved to the eastern part of the island, searching for enough healthy oysters to pay the bills.
Very discouraging, frustrating, stressful, emotional. It's hard.
The federal government has offered to buy back licenses from wild oyster fishers. Tammy Coughlin says she's not interested.
I don't have grade 12. And I'm at the age, what am I going to go back to school to do?
The wild oyster fishers are back on the water in September for the fall season, racing against time to make enough money to get them through the winter. Nancy Russell, CBC News, Brudenell, Prince Edward Island.
And that's the latest national and international news. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live in downtown Winnipeg in Studio 15 at CBC. Thanks for joining us. It is Thursday, June the 4th. We'll see how active the weather's going to be today. It should be a little bit calmer than it's been the last couple stormy days. It's beautifully sunny out there in Winnipeg, and your commute is looking fine. 788-3093. Call Corey if you have a problem. Well, in the last half hour of the show, we heard some of the challenges that first responders and Winnipeg Paramedic Service are facing on our streets. And we heard some of the data that CBC's I-Team brought us. We're going to talk to the Premier about what is going on out there with the fight against the toxic drug supply and also moving forward. So stay tuned. The Premier of Manitoba is in studio for our monthly interview this half hour. We're also going to ask him more about something we heard about earlier this morning. Now, we heard about it from a national perspective, AI data centers. And of course, it's the day where we're expecting the AI announcement from the federal government about their strategy. There is one planned for near Ile de Chêne, one of these data centers. So we're going to get an update from the Premier on that. We'll ask him about it. Stay tuned. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who is with us live from our news center with headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, outreach workers at the Salvation Army have helped get about 200 people off the streets of Winnipeg since October and into transitional housing. 88 have found permanent housing. We're going to hear from a couple of those outreach workers coming up. As well, the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party has barred one of its leadership candidates from running for the party in Turtle Mountain. The PC say they have told Wally Dowdrich he cannot seek the party nomination in the Southwest Manitoba constituency. And it was last year Dowdrich said he intended to run in Turtle Mountain, where the current MLA is not running again. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
There's Abby smiling in the sunshine.
Yeah, Thursday morning starting with lots of sunshine here in the city. And Thursday is going to be having more like a mix of sun and clouds stretching across the province today. Winnipeg, we are at 17. It is sunny outside. We're expecting a high of 21 later. Similar conditions we're seeing across the Pembina Valley region, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake region. Mild morning temperatures between 11 and 17. Highs close to 22. Well, for the northern part of the province, we're seeing 7 to 13 degrees at this time, and also the northern regions will be crawling close to 21 today. So it's going to be more like a beautiful one, a mix of sun and clouds, except for the Flin Flon area where we have light rain falling there, also close to Norway House this morning. But other than that, it's more like a mix of sun and clouds and a mild one across the province. Winnipeg 17 right now.
Yeah, if you're heading on a hopper over to Island Lake or Norway House, you're going to want to pack an umbrella. It's been raining all morning, not as heavy as earlier. Okay, let's get to what's happening in other things in the commute. Corey.
Yes, St. Vital Import gave us a call. He said northbound east perimeter just before Gun Road, really backed up in the left lane for some reason, not sure why. So stay right to get around that. And if you have any updates on that or anything else you're seeing, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, whether you're walking, biking, driving. I'd love to hear from you. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, Premier Wab Kinew is here for our monthly interview, as he is in person every month. Good morning, Premier.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming in. So let's talk about a report that I was just on before 8 o'clock. I know you know the information. Opioids surpassing alcohol is the number one substance driving the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Services emergency response and the toxic drug supply. Just for listeners that didn't hear it, vet tranquilizers and carfentanil are being mixed with other drugs, and it's leading to what we understand is a historic surge in overdoses. Your government this week did make some announcement. There's a pilot project for the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service. So paramedic teams will be available around the clock to respond, I understand, to overdose calls in high needs areas. We heard that one of the things people are hoping for is faster access to detox beds, and more of them are needed. What are you hoping to do, moving forward to further improve that, to add more help?
Yeah, it's a huge priority. And so we are investing in addictions and mental health. I think, when you hear the sort of numbers and the wear and tear on the morale of the front lines, that's a major cause for concern. And I think one of the things that we want to understand as we see these rise in numbers is one of the successes that we'd seen earlier in the year is that the number of deaths from overdose had gone down. So are we in a situation where ODs are increasing, but the deaths are maybe continuing to move in the better direction, which would tell us that the harm reduction techniques that we've been rolling out and working with the community organizations, that those are making a difference. Or maybe, if not, then there's another kind of intervention that's needed. So I think definitely live to this concern, hearing a lot about it. And, you know, as we get prepped to open the supervised consumption site and continue with the investments that we have on the front lines, we know that we've got to do the recovery piece that you're talking about. So we're making investments there. But then there's also been progress on the enforcement side as well. We just had the record drug bust that was announced by WPS. And similarly, WPS released their annual crime stat numbers, and crime has gone down in Winnipeg, which is another positive sign. I think that's because of collaboration between the WPS and the City of Winnipeg, and of course, we're trying to be very supportive of their efforts, hiring more police officers. So I think one of the other data points we want to look at is, does crime continue to go down even as overdose numbers are unfortunately increasing? And what does that tell us? Does that tell us that maybe the severity of the drugs are so toxic that it's not leaving people able to commit crimes? And then if that is the reality there, what have we got to do prevention? Because I think maybe we are seeing harm reduction show results, but obviously if we're seeing these OD numbers increase, the prevention piece needs to see more investments as well.
And we have learning to do in the province, because as we just heard from our I-team, some of the drugs out there are not responding to Narcan, to naloxone. So that's new when you look at what's happening on the streets in terms of an increasing number. You mentioned supervised consumption site. You said it would open at some point this month in June on Henry. Do we have a date yet?
No specific date, but we're still working towards that. The hiring process continues, the other preparation work, and I think the story that you're reporting on just gives us that urgency to keep leaning into this.
You talked about enforcement as well. Enforcement came up in some conversations on CBC earlier this month around public drug use. Some concerns from kids at Gordon Bell specifically. They've added some supports there with the team around the school, because you're balancing a vulnerable population of kids and a vulnerable population, of course, of people on the street. But you also, as Matt Henderson, the superintendent, put it, you also have dealers who are there to do harm. And he said, he's really looking at some more enforcement. So is the mayor. I'm wondering what your point of view is moving forward on how to balance the compassion maybe needed in our city with this problem, but also with enforcement to try to change things.
Well, we should bring the iron fist down on drug dealers, and we should extend the velvet glove to the drug users, I think, is the basic philosophy. If you think about that Tim Hortons that's across the street from Gordon Bell, as well as the McDonald's, just that general area, you're going to see a lot of issues, a lot of social problems. If somebody's going down there to make money off of that misery, that's the type of person we need to hold accountable, particularly when they're putting students and kids in the neighborhood at risk. So you can talk to Dr. Roos and you can talk to the public health experts. They will tell you that enforcement is one of the 4 pillars of a response to addictions. So you got to have the compassion in recovery. You got to have the prevention. You got to have the harm reduction. But you also need police to take bad guys off the street.
What does the iron fist look like? Have you wrapped your head around what is it more police visible on the street? Is it changes in the laws that are faced by the dealers?
Yeah, I mean, if there's more tools that we can give law enforcement, for sure, we'll do that. We did give them the Unexplained Wealth Act, which, if you have somebody driving around in a Ferrari with no job, you can go ask them, how did you get that now, which has been used. So that's one tool, just a quick example. But if you look at the more than 50 officers that have been hired because of new provincial funding since we took office, part of that crime stat report was that there are now more officers compared to the overall population than there has been in more than a decade. So again, it's not the only tool that we have in our tool belt, but it's one of the things that we can do to combat what's happening with toxic drugs.
8:19, Premier Wab Kinew live on CBC Manitoba. Last question on this. Main Street Project asked to have this declared, the drug and what's happening in the city and the toxic supply and the situation declared a provincial public health emergency. Is that something you're considering?
Well, we did declare a public health emergency recently on HIV. Mm-hmm. And this was at the advice, the direction of Dr. Roosen. To be clear, Dr. Roussin made this decision entirely to call a public health emergency, and he did talk to us in terms of what does this mean? And so if we were to do another public health emergency, and so just to be clear, the HIV public health emergency, why did we declare that? There's a few spots in the province where we've seen dramatic increases in HIV cases. It's largely driven by IV drug use, and we want to build on the provincial response, get more federal resources to the table, and then also raise awareness. So the real action that came out of the HIV public health declaration was raising awareness and getting the feds to the table. So the question, if you wanted to do another public health emergency in this space, what would be the what would happen?
Yeah, well,
as a result.
And what would be the benefit of calling a public health emergency?
Typically, it's new resources, right?
Yeah.
And so if there is a clear case to be made here, I'm sure Dr. Roussin will listen to it. But again, if we look at what are the resources needed to combat addictions, it's prevention. So let's try to avoid trauma for kids, including in the CFS system. It's harm reduction and recovery, and then it's enforcement.
Could you use that, though? Like maybe more consumption sites, detox beds, all those things require funding. I know I'm dipping into healthcare, which is provincial, but yes, the provincial responsibility. But would it benefit to sort of put this on the federal psyche to look at Manitoba and try to...
We're currently working on some stuff with the feds, which we haven't announced yet, that I think will move the needle in this space.
Okay. Let's talk about something that you do have an update on, which is the AI data center south of Winnipeg near Ile-des-Chênes. What can you tell us about it this morning?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of attention on this data center near Ile-des-Chênes, a lot of signatures gathered on a petition. And so we're going to say no to this data center. And I can explain a bit about what that means, really, because there's a whole bureaucratic process with the government and Manitoba Hydro. What we're actually doing is requests for power, new power hookups from Manitoba Hydro. They now come to us to get designated high, medium, low. As you can imagine, a high priority item, like let's say the new investments at 17 Wing, the Air Force Base, that means Manitoba Hydro is going to work on them right away. The medium priority ones have to wait after that. And if something gets designated low, it's basically not going to happen. So we've taken a look at this project. We've taken a look at AI more broadly, what's happening across North America. And these hyperscale data centers don't appear to be in the best interests of Manitobans, at least the proponents that we've seen. Well,
help me through your thinking of why you're saying no.
An hour-long conversation we could have. I think to boil it down.
Just so listeners know, too, here. So some of the people in the area have been concerned about proximity to community, potential impact of noise, light, and air pollution. Are those some of the things that you looked at?
Environment is, I would say environment. Some of the other, like if you look at the regulation under this part of the Hydro Act, it's not only the environment, it's also impact on rural communities. We got to be mindful of the unique way of life and like the benefits that rural Manitobans want to keep. Then we look at the economic side as well. And while there would be a lot of economic activity during the construction phase, once a hyperscale data center is running, you're not going to see much economic benefit. In fact, most of the economic benefit probably leaves the province. So you will see us do data centers, but we took a look at Manitoba government, and we have a lot of important information, your health information, et cetera. We use about 1 to 1.5 megawatts of compute as the entire government. Mm-hmm. So the idea of building like a 500 megawatt facility, it doesn't really make sense. And what I push a step further for people who really pay attention to this is you can now run a close to frontier large language model on a MacBook. You buy a newer MacBook, it's not cheap, but you could run it locally. So I have the feeling that maybe these $30 billion hyperscale data centers are going to be albatrosses in the future when people can run the AI that's necessary for their day-to-day use on their local MacBook, and that they would be able to keep all their data at home, private, on their own computer instead of giving it away to Elon Musk and Sam Altman.
Okay, so I want to ask you about what you just said. We will see data centers do data centers.
Yeah,
and then you said in the future you think the tech's going to change.
I think right now, right now it's already here.
Okay, so this isn't about geography. Well, it's a bit about geography, but it's not solely about geography. Like if there's a company listening or they come back with another proposal, Premier, and say, okay, if Ile-des-Chênes doesn't work, will it work somewhere else? This proposal doesn't work for various reasons. Will you look at in the future Manitoba
say
other geographic areas, or is it about the changes that are happening, you think, that are quickly, and when they're going to take less from us, you'll look at that an
I
opportunity?
think closer to what you just said there.
We're not closed to this. idea in
No,
Manitoba.
sorry. Let me just say this clearly. The data centers that we're going to do are way smaller than any of the stuff that's making news. Like when we first announced with Jim Balsillie that we wanted to make more independent compute here in Manitoba so that we could safeguard our own health information and look after our own data here in our own province, the first thing we said we'd do is we're going to go buy a rack of GPUs and put it in Merlin, which is the educational systems IT organization here in Manitoba. That's the scale of data center that we're going to do. 16 GPUs on one server rack.
You're inviting more of that. The idea of these big mega centers, not for us.
Doesn't really seem to make sense. Well, if you can buy a $7,000 laptop and you can run a close to state-of-the-art large language model on your desktop, keeping your own data private and secure, what is the business model for a $30 billion facility down the road?
Some Manitobans...
And then you layer the environment, and then you layer the local disruptions on top of that. So I just don't really see how this would benefit Manitoba. So if we have 500 megawatts of power, which is what this Ile-des-Chênes data center was asking Hydro for, how many jobs could we create if that's going to the Port of Churchill, if that's going to build new manufacturing, if that's going to build new housing, if that, and so on down the list. So, yeah, I think I'm trying to nuance a position here where, yes, we are going to continue to have a future for AI tools, but the data really, really ought to stay in Manitoba as much as possible. But then when we look at the gold rush and the potential bubble that's happening with these hyperscale data centers, I don't think that's something that our provincial economy should place a huge bet on right now. There's probably wiser decisions we can use for our money and for our electricity.
Last question, because I do want to ask you about CUSMA before you go. Yeah. But the last question on this is, if a new big data center like this comes knocking, is the answer already no?
Well, we have a responsibility to look at everything, but I think we're making this announcement so that Manitobans understand the philosophy of how we're looking at things.
The position.
Yeah.
So CUSMA obviously coming up pretty fast.
Yeah.
Manitoba was not as affected in the past. We were affected by tariffs, but not in the same way that were announced by the states. CUSMA will be a big deal, a free trade deal with Mexico and U.S., Canada to be renewed, we think. What are you watching for? And I wonder when CUSMA is renegotiated from a Manitoba point of view, and do the provinces have a clear, avenue to get our regionally specific concerns into these negotiations in any way?
Yeah, we do. I think, one, we have our direct presence there. So we had Richard Madden, we had the Business Council, the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, Keystone Ag Producers. They were all there with the U.S. trade representatives, officials. I think it was on Tuesday of this week. So we have that direct ability to lobby. And the point of that is to say, hey, trade with Manitoba helps farmers in Iowa. It helps farmers in Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, et cetera. And then we have the First Minister's table, which is the premiers, the prime minister, and obviously the prime minister and his team are the one leading the negotiation. So we've got our next First Minister's meeting next week coming up. And yeah, this is going to be the number one item on the agenda. And for us, the real priority is we need our ag industry and our manufacturing industry to continue to have access to the U.S. market. But bigger picture, we also need to move past this era where, Donald Trump's administration decides on a Tuesday evening that they want to go in a different direction. And then all of a sudden, the rest of us have to change our cost of living, our work, all of our plans for our own economic futures, right? So stability and getting back to a better trade relationship with the States in a way that still represents our Canadian pride and our Manitoba pride. That's the balance we got to try and strike.
I heard you speaking on this previously to that end. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Every month, Premier Wab Kinew is here for our monthly interview. It is coming up to news time at 8:30, and I just want to thank the folks that worked on the show today. As the Premier leaves, thank you for being here. Thank you also to Heather Wells and Megan Ketchison and Joni Nicolo, Aaron Broman in our news department this morning, to Corey Funk and Abby Adiemi and Darren Marash in our control room operating the show. And also thanks to our producers, Donna Carrero and Nellie Gonzalez, who were working on the program today. Our associate producers who had pieces in the show today, Sophia Peralta Barone with an item in the program today. Also May McKillop with an item in the show today, as well as Kristen Annabelle from our I-team at CBC. So big thanks to everybody who worked on the program. Right now, it is time to dip into our CBC Manitoba news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. Partly cloudy, 18 degrees right now. Bit of a northwest breeze that is going to keep us slightly cooler than we were yesterday. A high today of 21, and again, a very slight chance of a shower this afternoon. Opioid overdoses in Winnipeg are skyrocketing, and Winnipeg first responders say they are overwhelmed. CBC I-team reporter Michelle Allen has more.
Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service data shows a historic surge in opioid overdoses. It's already responded to over 2,000 opioid-related calls this year so far. Jason Podolanek is an outreach worker at St. Boniface Street Links. He says more people in Winnipeg are using opioids.
It's horrible. There's people that dying every day. It's evil.
Podolanek and his girlfriend Alicia Wallen used to be homeless, struggling with meth and fentanyl addiction. Wallen died in the hospital 5 months ago. The autopsy found fentanyl in her system. Podolanek's in recovery now after getting housing, detox, and medication.
I was determined not to let her death be in vain, I guess, because I'm not going to keep going on the same cycle as we were.
He says harm reduction alone won't stop the cycle. There needs to be more resources helping people get off drugs, too. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The number of people dying in highway crashes in Manitoba is on the rise. RCMP say 27 people have been killed since January. That's 3 more than at this time last year. 3 Manitobans have been killed in 3 separate crashes this week. And 3 recent fatalities involved semi-trucks. Brandon-based trucker Murray Manulak has been behind the wheel for decades. He wonders if training is an issue.
The population in Canada has risen drastically in the last 40 years. And there's more trucks out there. So something needs to be done so that everybody's in the same playing field and same level of driving.
RCMP warned drivers to put their phones down and to slow down. Outreach workers at the Salvation Army have helped get about 200 people off the streets of Winnipeg since October and into transitional housing. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
A garage door opens. 2 Salvation Army outreach workers jump in a vehicle to help people who are homeless. One of them, Aaron Gwidolin, says the work is both rewarding and challenging.
It's heartbreaking sometimes, hearing people's stories, seeing them homeless.
It's part of the Manitoba government's Your Way Home strategy to end chronic homelessness. Stephen Halderson says the end goal is to get people out of encampments and into permanent housing.
Some of the people we've been dealing with have been homeless since 2016.
Since October, they've helped move nearly 200 people into transitional units at the Salvation Army's Centre of Hope. Of those people, 88 have moved on to a permanent place to live where they continue to get personalized supports. Housing Addictions and Homelessness Minister Bernadette Smith says the level of help depends on each person's needs. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party has barred one of its leadership candidates from running for the party in Turtle Mountain. The PCs say they have told Wally Dowdrich he cannot seek the party nomination in that southwest Manitoba constituency. Dowdrich said last year he intends to run in Turtle Mountain. The current PC MLA, Doyle Pinook, is not running again. The party did not say why Dowdrich is not permitted to seek the nomination. Dowdrich finished second to Abhi Khan in a close leadership race last year. Manitoba health officials are trying to address vaccine hesitancy as the province deals with a growing measles outbreak. Manitoba's Associate Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jazz Atwal, held a telephone town hall last night. People from the Southern Health Region were invited to ask questions, and that's where case numbers have been the highest and vaccine rates the lowest. Atwal says people who are unvaccinated face higher risks of severe outcomes.
Someone might not see it in the community because when someone's in hospital or from a different community, you don't hear about it. You don't see it. But the doctors, the nurses, and the family that's impacted sees it. And we see it when we talk to those families, and we see the remorse in some parents in some of these situations as well.
Manitoba has seen nearly 600 confirmed cases of measles with 49 hospitalizations. Around half of those hospitalizations were children under the age of 10. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
And one of the thank yous that I missed here, associate producer Michaela Van Kooten, also with an item on the program today. Radio Noon has their call-in, starts at 12:15, all over the province. You can call in and weigh in. Today they're asking about e-bikes and where they belong. And that is because there's a bill in front of the legislature here looking at some of the changes in the Traffic Act potentially. And there's some proposed changes already happening in Ontario as well. So remember, we have assisted bikes with assisted power, and then there's e-bikes which go a little faster, scooters go a little faster, all kinds of different personal vehicles that are on our roadways and our sidewalks. So where do they belong, and what would you like to see by way of enforcement? Is it a challenge or not? And if you ride one, we'd love to hear your experience too. So I'm going to give you the listener line, but I'm not. I was about to by automatic default. But the number you want is actually the call-in number, which is 788-3797. Write that down. Call in, starts at 12:15 this afternoon on Radio Noon. Where do e-bikes belong? Okay, Corey Funk, the commute today.
Northbound perimeter approaching Gun Road, really backed up in the left lane. The caller who called the community line wasn't sure why, but keep right, he said, to get around whatever is going on there.
Okay, thanks for calling us. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Abby.
A mix of sun and clouds, mild conditions, breezy to windy weather prevailing through the province. We get to see light rain towards the Norway House area this morning. Southern regions warming up to 22 as well. In the northern region, we're seeing temperatures between 17 and 13, heading to 21 right now. Winnipeg, we're at 17 degrees. We get to 21 later in the day.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Information Radio. Thank you, Abby. And take care. Coming up next, it is The Currents. And remember, we'll be watching for that AI announcement from the feds today about the strategy. And then local programming from noon to 1 and also from 3 to 6 on Up to Speed. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Be well. Thanks for listening.